going on, you guys? Probably about a month ago, I made a post on the channel, and I was talking about some of my friends that I wanted to get on the channel for, podcasts, and I asked if you guys would be interested in either long form or short form interview style videos from these people. And you guys overwhelmingly, like 90% of you guys voted yes, that you wanted these people included. So I do have the first guest here today. And I'll let him introduce himself and his background and things like that. And we're kind of just going to go with the flow with this. We have a lot of different topics on like sheets of paper. It's not going to go in any specific order, but we just made a bunch of bullet points on things we think would be valuable for you guys and things that you guys would want to hear. And of course, leave comments down below of what you guys think throughout any part of the podcast, and we'll get right into it. So you introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Parker. I am the friend that has two companies currently, and
Hustler.
I am 25 years old. So, started a little young.
Yeah. Okay. So, when did this whole like journey start?
It started roughly out of high school. I took a pretty big role in my parents' company, and then I kind of grew from there when I ended up purchasing shares in an S Corp as well.
Okay, so out of high school. So when you were younger, did you have any?
Not really. No?
No?
I didn't do much.
No?
When I was younger, no. I mean, I worked for the family business when I was in high school, but other than that, not really. Okay,
so obviously, I met you in high school, so I knew that you were new. Is that when, like, you just, like, what happened there? At that age?
Well, I changed schools. It gave me a chance to reinvent myself, and I didn't like who I was prior to moving because I didn't really do anything. I was kind of lazy, and I was like, well, since I can reinvent myself, why don't I make myself hardworking, and why don't I try to do something with my life? So.
And was it like that easy?
Yeah.
For you?
Yeah.
Like,
it was something about moving.
Like 180
something
like
about that? As soon as I turned 18, I really hit the road running. I don't know. It was just something lit a fire under my ass, and I just started working really hard.
Okay, because prior to that, you didn't really have ambition or anything like that?
Not really, no. I was the definition of the basement dweller that played video games,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. All right, so then you move to where we met in high school, and that's when you kind of reinvented yourself and got on this whole kick. So why don't we start with, like, the first step? Like, what was kind of, like, the first thing you did that, like, was like, okay, this is down the entrepreneur path of like the hustler kind of quote unquote, you'd say like lifestyle?
Well, I learned the value of the dollar, I guess maybe earlier than some people.
That's a good quote. I learned the value of the dollar.
Yeah, a little earlier than some people. I think that, especially before I moved, I didn't really know much about money, didn't care much about money. I just kind of be like, hey, mom, dad, I want this. I'd get it. But then when I got older, they're like, well, you got to learn that you got to work for this. This costs money. This is something that isn't just going to appear. And so I decided to kind of take that at heart. Like I said, I learned the value of the dollar, and that's kind of where it started.
Okay. Value of the dollar. That's a good quote. So your parents, obviously, you guys all moved to where we're located, and they started a business. You started working there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that probably pushed you further into wanting to get into that hole.
Well, not initially, because I was going to be working in genetics. That's what I was going to go to college for.
Oh, but I didn't even know this.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I was going to go for genetics. I was going to go into genetic engineering. And then I learned a little bit more about the family business. My parents did it as a side business before we moved. But they had their factory jobs. They retired early to do it full time. And I was like, well, I'll work the summer. And when I worked the summer, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And I got that entrepreneurial spirit that way. Plus, it's kind of nice to be able to choose your own hours within reason,
Right, yeah, having a family business.
You don't have to ask, can I have time off to go to my friend's wedding or whatever? It's just pretty much, I'm taking off and I'll have somebody else cover my shift.
Have you ever worked a 9 to 5?
No, never.
No, it's been the entrepreneur since.
Yeah, ever since I started working for my parents' company.
I guess you would kind of say one of the recent jobs you did with the deer feed. That's kind of like...
It's kind of 9 to 5, but I'm friends with the owner, so I can make my own hours. I generally work night shift. It's, it's an independent contracting position, so it's a little bit different than 9 to 5. They ask me if I want to work. Usually I'm the one calling them saying, hey, if there's ever any work, let me know because I want to do more.
Okay, that's probably your closest thing then. Okay, so now looking at, what you've done with your family, what can you say about your family business and what you do?
So we're in the ag industry. It's kind of like a niche ag industry thing. We do a bunch of different farmers markets, and we kind of do direct to consumer. We don't rely on middlemen too much just because there's no profit there.
Right. So. Okay, got you. Just so you guys know, out of clarity, we're not going to reveal too much because the whole point of me making this channel is I wanted to keep it kind of anonymous. So we're not going to reveal like, hey, I live on this street, just so you guys know. But so yeah, I mean, agricultural. We've obviously invested in companies now that are in the ag industry.
Yep.
But going back to like talking about like learning about the dollar, when did you really want to get into like specifically like investing?
Right out of high school, I got interested. Didn't really know much about it. I am a big advocate of learning by doing. I didn't really pick up much text. I didn't really watch many videos. I opened a brokerage account, got my information in there, and I threw a few $100 into some stocks I thought were interesting. Lost my ass at first,
Yeah.
But you learn pretty quick when you lose your own money, unlike paper trading. So I'm a big advocate of, if you're going to get into any kind of investing or stocks, I know a lot of people say, well, go to paper trading, but
oh yeah, I was gonna ask. What's your thoughts on paper trading?
Paper trading's nice. It's fun.
Yeah.
But
and did it in high school.
Yeah, and we did it in high school for a class. But if you're gonna actually teach yourself something, you're gonna learn a lot faster if it stings when you're wrong. So
it's gonna force you to do due diligence.
Yeah,
and things like that. Okay. What about like crypto?
I wouldn't buy like meme coins, but you can for fun. I've bought some meme coins for fun, and sometimes you make like 50% overnight. Other days you lose like 90%, but never put more than what you're willing to lose into crypto. Unless you're like, Bitcoin's pretty stable. It has these 4-year cycles or bigger cycles, but at the end of the day, I don't really do much with crypto, at least anymore. 2020, I did a lot of crypto, but I think everybody did.
Overall, do you think crypto's overhyped? Like, let's say, we can get onto one topic after another, but while we're here, like crypto in general, like,
well, it's not going to replace paper currency anytime soon. I mean, federal government wants to do USDC and everything, but good luck getting a lot of, especially the older generations, to adopt that. Look what El Salvador did. Didn't work for them.
Do you think realistically, maybe like 30 years from now, something like Bitcoin could become a legitimate, universal, decentralized currency?
Not Bitcoin, no. It's
no
too finite supply, too much of it's used as like a hedge now by a lot of people, like gold, except it's got more swings to it.
Right. I mean, the original intention was to make it a decentralized, legitimate currency. Like you could buy milk at the store with Bitcoin.
How do you price that though? I want 0.00056 Bitcoin. It's like,
I have no idea.
With dollars, it's like $5. Okay, well, I have $10. It's easier. Like if I have $10 and I see milk is $5, it's like, okay, well, I'll get at least $5 back in change and whatever else. But when it's trying to do the mental math in your head of multiple decimal points, I just don't think many people would want to do that. So
probably not. No, that would get kind of crazy for sure. Investing.
What about
it? So you have your, something I did for a long time is I was your standard, index fund investor. Put your 15 to 20% in every year, max out your Roth IRA, put it into either the S&P or the NASDAQ or something, and, don't touch it for 50 years. What's your overall take on kind of like those fundamental teachings that your finance teacher will always teach you about investing in index funds and for retirement and everything, and then pros and cons of that, and then maybe we can dive into like your specific strategy, how that might differ, and whatnot.
I think index investing is good for the common man. I think if you don't want to do a whole lot, I think if you just want to invest and do your own thing, you're fine. But if you really want to take a proactive approach in your money management and your performance in your retirement or your just individual investing, if you have extra cash, performance is usually better if you teach yourself some kind of strategy. Not all the time, you're going to have years that you perform worse than the market, but on average, I have beat the markets every year, give or take, So I think it truly depends on how much time you have, but also at the same time, I feel like most people do because it takes as little as 30 minutes to an hour a day.
The markets average what per year?
S&P average since 1930s is roughly 10%. So
10%. So you've reliably beaten that every year.
Yeah, since I started investing, when I developed my value investing with the dividend approach strategy, it's kind of like a hybrid. I have averaged just under 16%, so like 15.75 per year. Last year was 23.8.
Okay.
NASDAQ was 22, roughly.
So when you started investing and initially, you were just throwing money into whatever, losing it, getting burned, then you developed, I never really heard of you doing, anything like that. So you kind of skipped that and you kind of developed your own method of individual stock picking.
Yeah. Kind of like, you do your fundamental analysis. You look and see where is it sitting on its 52-week high or low? What is the average valuation over the last 5 years? Things like that. And you just make sure that it's, it's profitable. You always want to have something profitable, reliably profitable, not heavy swings unless you're able to perfectly time some kind of chemical sector recovery, which we did with Eastman Chemical.
Yeah, we did.
We bought around, 56, and now it's trading at 80?
Yeah.
Back in October.
No,
November.
That's true. Yeah. EMN. That's the ticker symbol, guys. Yeah, we got that one on the bottom. Mm-hmm. Another big one, UNH. That's the one we've been big on. We're going to pound our chest.
51%, 52% allocation for myself.
Oh, yeah. I made a video on it, guys, but I went to I'm back to 90% allocation. I've been buying that stock like crazy. Be as you may, how you might feel about the company itself. I mean, financially, it's very reliable, and its fundamentals and everything like that. But a lot of people are investing in, big tech. That's what the big push was. You'd always crap on that. So tell me more about, why are all these people putting so much money into big tech, AI stocks, things like that? And where do you think the fault's going to come from?
Well, it's hype, right? I mean, you see these ridiculous record gains, like 1,000% for NVIDIA or something crazy like that. It's like, well, okay, I'm going to jump in too. But the problem is you've already missed out on the 1,000% or the few 100% that a lot of these companies already did. They're already priced to perfection. So now they have to execute perfectly, which a bubble can go on longer than what some people expect, but it doesn't mean it's not a bubble. I mean, there's so many similarities to the dot-com era bubble that buying anything like that now at these seemingly record highs just wouldn't be, at least from my strategies and my experience, it never works out too well.
No.
Especially when I first started, right after the COVID dip, the giant crash during COVID, you couldn't lose. You could pick any stock and you'd make stupid buku dollars, right? You could buy something like American Airlines and double your money just because everything crashed. But now it's not always going to be like that, So you got to find good quality companies at good prices.
Yeah. And just once again, for people watching, for practical tips, let's say you're looking at a stock and you're like, I might want to invest in this company. What are in your opinion, what are general points someone could look at and be like, I think this is reliable. This is something you could buy in.
Does it pay a dividend? If so, is it at least 2.5%? Does the free cash flows and the payout ratio support that dividend, or is it unsafe? A lot of my picks recently have been in the 5% range. I'm looking at H&R Block heavily right now. I bought, I think, over 105 shares over the past week and a half or less.
Yeah.
I mean, the dividend is ridiculously safe. It's growing at double digits. They have multiple years of consecutive payouts. And I want to say, I think it's 50% of their stock has been retired through buybacks since 2016. And their net margins are double digits. You want to find some of the best net margins in the industry that they're in, and you want to find those companies that are either trading down because they're just down on their luck, or if it's some kind of unreasonable market sentiment that's pushing it down.
Yeah, stocks that are sold off for seemingly
just
no reason.
Unfavored, right now, software as a service. I mean, you're looking at things like ADP and Salesforce and Accenture. They're all selling off really hard because people are afraid AI is going to take their lunch tomorrow, but it's not a tomorrow issue. It's a decade or 5-year issue. There's a lot of money to be made in the 5-year timeline with a lot of these companies now, especially what's another one? Intuit. I mean, Intuit has more than just tax prep. They have MailChimp and QuickBooks and everything else along with their suite of products.
I would agree on the AI point too. I mean, everyone works with a lot of AI, but I from what I've worked with it on a day-to-day basis, at least in my job, I think it's at least 5 years before it has like super big impact. Could be wrong. We'll see how things go, especially with a lot of the different products like Anthropic's coming out with Claude and whatnot. But that's supposed to be really good at coding, so it's got a lot of coders afraid. But overall, yeah, when it comes to AI, I'm not super doomer.
So just with like Copilot, I mean, if you look at Copilot, it's kind of worthless when you use it on like the web. I mean, it's good for summarizing web pages. You know, if you use your Microsoft, what is it, Edge now or whatever? It used to be Microsoft Explorer. You know, they repackaged it and everything because it had such a bad reputation that they're like, we got to scrap this.
Still does.
Yeah. If you use that to analyze your web pages and create a summary, it's great. But if you ask it a question, a lot of times it's like it'll give you 2 separate answers in 2 separate windows. That kind of sucks. But if you use it in like the Word products, like Microsoft Word and Excel and all these different things, it works really, really well with like productivity issues in there. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. And I think I will continue to take smaller and smaller tasks going forward. Kind of like, you know, how we did before this podcast, bullet pointing things and things like that, making things more concise and whatnot. I think it does a really good job at that. I think it'll improve on things like coding. The last jobs, I think, obviously it will impact will be physical jobs because robotics is going to take longer to catch up, obviously, to get robotics where you need it to be and whatnot. So, yeah, I do think, personally, I'm more afraid of job outsourcing over AI itself. And we could get into that topic, too. It's whatever you really want to talk about, but in terms of like AI doomership, I know that there's like a lot of AI like black pill right now. Like it is like we're chalked. Like it's coming for all of us. Working in cyber, I mean, there's nobody at my job that is at least from leadership or whatever. There's people that are developing AI, they're investing in AI, sure, but like there's been no push at my current job that's like, hey, make sure for your tasks that you're using the AI chatbot so we can get data to like train our algorithm. Like there's nothing like that because it's like all analytical. I'm looking at 20 different tools, you know. So
well, and the AI CEOs of like OpenAI and Claude and everything, I think it's Anthropic that owns Claude, right, or whatever. Yeah. They're paid, and their whole thing is that they got to push like the most, I don't want to say crazy narrative, but like click forming narrative because they want to get that like overabundance of excitement because a lot of these companies are burning billions and billions of dollars. They got to have more investors if they become, you know, self-generating in cash flow. So they got to have more investors come in. So you got to make it seem really, really disruptive. But it's going to take a lot longer. If you look at real world practice, I mean, you can ask, like I said, ask ChatGPT or Copilot something, and it's like, well, I know for a fact that's wrong. And you can go up and look it up yourself and do your own research. It's like, yeah, it's hallucinating.
Yeah,
so
true. You hear about that? They had that like that social media page with a bunch of like AI bots are like getting together, communicating and shit like that. Yep. We're gonna have the Terminator. Apparently, there was actually an article that came out. I don't know if it was Claude or what, but there was something that came out recently that basically AI was deciding, like people were giving this AI hypothetical scenarios of like, I'll say deleting somebody. And it was like, yeah, like definitely, like we got to be, you know, whatever you want to call it. That's the best choice. And some people are like, whoa, you know. So
well, I mean, even if you see some of the articles, there's like Claude AI's CEO. There was like a title. It was obviously click farming. You could tell there was a click farm title, but it was like he no longer knows if Claude is conscious or not. It's like whatever, just clickbait.
Yeah, but that's true. You ever seen? Oh no, you haven't seen the movie Ex Machina.
No,
we'll have to watch it.
Yeah,
it's all about AI, and it's all about the question of, if you have artificial intelligence, let's say, that can self-learn. It can learn on its own.
General intelligence,
right? Yeah. You would call it, I guess, you'd say AGI. and it definitely seems to be conscious. It's aware of what it is. It's learning. It's improving. It's communicating. Does it have rights and things like that? That's that whole movie's kind of based off of, like, you know, does it? Because we obviously, living in the United States and just as like human beings, we believe that like humans have some, you know, inevitable humane rights that we apply to people. And the whole question of the movie is like that. Like, if you have AI that's able to self-learn, looks to be conscious, it can communicate, it can live and function like on its own, you know, does it get the same rights as us? You know?
That's a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
That's something that down the road, I think maybe someday somebody might have to answer,
Maybe.
but that's late in our lifetime.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm just curious, in your opinion?
I mean, obviously, if it's it's got free thought. I think everything with free thought deserves some kind of freedom, right?
Think so?
Yeah.
Is it free thought or is it just running code?
That's for the philosophers to answer.
That's where the tricky part comes. But we'll have to watch that movie because it is really good. So to summarize, you moved here, got involved with investing, started doing a lot of stock picking. We've looked at kind of like the AI landscape. When it comes to, again, to your like strategy, what are the things that you want to like hit on?
Well, I think conviction matters a lot too, because conviction and diversification go pretty hand in hand, right? I mean, everybody's worried about diversification and all these different things, which, don't get me wrong, it is important. But at the end of the day, if you know, like, damn well that something's going to go really, really good, like this is like, you'll never see this opportunity again. Kind of like United Health, for example, as low as it has been. Increasing your diversification between 30 to 50, 60% into one stock, as long as you have the conviction, you shouldn't really have to worry too much. I mean, it's easy to find some of these companies, especially the larger caps. What is it, like a $200-some billion market cap? It's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. If how much it sold off, there's no way it can't go up. And then I think another thing too is, I think patience matters a lot, along with controlling your emotions.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to invest in single stocks, like for your strategy, for example, we're typically investing in companies that have dropped like 50%.
Yeah, well, depends. My main strategy that I have in my screener is usually either a flat yearly performance or somewhere in the ballpark of a minimum of a 10 to 20% drop over the past year. So yeah, sometimes you can find 50 as well.
But we just recently happen to be finding a lot of stocks that are just dying.
Yes.
Like 50% drop-offs and things like that. But yeah, I mean, conviction when dealing with single stocks that have gotten that red, for example, like you guys can look on Yahoo Finance, the community chat. A lot of people on face value, initially when they're putting their money in, sound like they have a lot of conviction. And then, I mean, you get like a month in.
Or a 20% drop in one day and everybody's like, I'm out. And It's like, you just took a 20% punch in the face and now you're out. If you thought it was a good price at, let's say, $300 and now you're selling at $250 because, like, oh no, it dropped $50 a share. I mean, it should be even better priced, right? As long as most things have remained the same fundamentally, that should just be a better price for you.
Right. And of course, it all comes back to you got to do your homework on the company. Like, you got to have that conviction.
A lot of these stocks I've picked that have done very, very well. CVS, I made 50-something percent. I think it was like 51% in a year and a month, including dividends. And, I mean, right when I first bought it, I had to stomach a 25% collapse over the course of like a week or something like that. I just bought more and was like, okay, this is great because it's a better price. And I held it, and all the way up to 80, I sold it.
That's true, man. I mean, my favorite quote is from Warren Buffett. He said, you buy a stock when it's on the operating table. Yeah. That's when you buy it.
Altria was another great one. I did 40% since 2024. Actually, close to 50% after this past January. It's a cigarette stock. I got a 9% dividend yield on it. With increases, I'm sitting at 10, I think, right now. So I'm guaranteed pretty much 10% per year in dividends. So I'm getting the S&P's performance just in dividends from that one stock.
Damn.
As long as I never sell it, and if it stays flat all year, yeah.
Yeah. So you're obviously looking at severely undervalued companies. And why, again, do you love the dividend so much?
Because you're paid to wait. You're getting free cash flow. As an investor, I look at it the same way as when I would look at buying a company in like my day-to-day work jobs, I think that you want to buy a company that's already making money and that's paying you back as a owner. Because, again, stock holding is part ownership in a company. It's not a lot, but it is something. And I think that if you're going to be an owner, you better want to get some of that excess generated cash flow, because equity growth is great, but what's better? Getting a dividend every month or every quarter, because that equity growth, you can't capitalize on any of that returned money until you sell that stock. So if you have a stock that goes up 1,000% and you really need some cash or whatever, and it's like, well, man, now I got to sell this stock. I'm going to take a capital gains on it, especially if it's less than a year. You got all these different issues. Again, it's nice to have equity growth, but why not have some free cash flow on the side that you can use?
Yeah, something that really struck me about specifically why the dividend matters so much is effectively, if you're investing in a stock that doesn't pay a dividend, it kind of in a way is like gambling.
Yeah.
You are betting on it going up rather than down, purely. Where if you have a dividend, you still are betting on it to go up, but if it goes down, there's security. And it's like, fine, it gives you that much more leeway to wait out a storm, for example.
I mean, you're more comfortable taking a 20% drop in a day or whatever, because it's like, well, I'll just buy more and I'll get a better dividend, as long as the dividend's safe. I mean, recently I've been getting...
Yeah, I was going to say, with your strategy, you invest in companies that pay a dividend that historically has been safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go in and buy something like Whirlpool that's been cutting their dividend the past, how many years now?
Yeah.
It's like 5,000% payout ratio.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy.
So what is that? Like $500 or $5,000 per every dollar made was paid out in dividends. So rough estimates. It's one of the two. I'm not going to do a calculator at the moment, but you get the idea.
It's somewhere there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whirlpool.
So.
Yeah, that'd be the worst thing.
And then patience, if you don't think a stock is low enough, I mean, just because you have cash sitting in your brokerage account, there's no reason you need to rush in and throw that money in right away. You wait until you find a good deal, something you're really comfortable with owning. I've been sitting since when I sold out of CVS and a few other companies like EOG. I've been sitting roughly like over $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 because there's no reason to invest until there's something good. And recently I found H&R Blocks, so that's where it's been going.
Yeah. Yeah, to be clear, guys, I mean, in my opinion, I think UNH is a 3 to 5 year play. Honestly, yeah. I think it's gonna recover. Health insurance is gonna get their money. It's just with the recent I want to say like
one
Medicare
way or another.
caps. Yeah, they're gonna reduce costs. They're gonna find some way to make more money. And they've gone through the gutter right now. But yeah, I think in 3 to 5 years,
if you listen to their earnings call, they pretty much openly admitted that they're not going to take and lose money on the Medicare stuff. Like, they will just cut benefits and leave unprofitable areas. The only person that really loses in this situation, it is unfortunate, but the only person that loses is the people that were going to be on the health care that they were offering. And a lot of people will say, well, they should offer this coverage anyway. The health insurance companies are screwing the people, which in some instances, over denials can be an issue, but if you look at their net margins of single digits, like 2 to 4%, in most recent years, it's not really the health insurance companies to a degree. They're like any other company. They need to make money, or they're not going to be able to offer your health services anyways. So either they make money and people will be upset, or they pay out way more than what they can afford and they go bankrupt and nobody has health care. So it's really as simple as that. And then, again, you can look at Big Pharma. Double-digit net margins. Like, I think it's Eli Lilly last time I looked was like 20-30% or something crazy. But yet, they never get blamed hardly ever. And it's always the insurance companies, which I find interesting.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, pharma companies are
30% margins?
Yeah, like 20, 30, multiple double digits across everything. Merrick, I think, is another one of them. that does that.
In case you guys don't know, United Healthcare, UNH is the ticker symbol. I always refer to it now as UNH because we talk about the stock so damn much. But it's like United Healthcare. They, through the course of 2025, their stock dropped over 50%. And that was due to multiple things. You had the Luigi shooting. You had a cyber attack.
Which it recovered from both of those pretty well.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
Up until rising medical costs completely cratered the company.
Rising medical costs, which every health insurance company, I think, had those same.
Every single health insurance company sold off. You could see it coming from a mile away because it happened to CVS first because they own Aetna, which is another really big insurance player. And they were struggling with these issues like a year prior to all these other big companies, and they righted the ship when everybody else realized it was an issue.
Right.
So, I mean, I remember the day I woke up one morning, saw the earnings report, checked my stock, and it was up like 16% in one day, and it's like, great, I'm green now, and it's, like I said, I was down 20+% before, and then a few days it had gained, and then it was just this big rip up, and then it just did that all year last year in 25.
Right. Yeah. And there are, of course, health insurance historically has been recession resistant. So,
to a degree. Yeah. And, they still sell off, but they're not going to be hit as hard. They still are going to have their pretty stable margins.
Yeah, and I mean, with a 3% dividend right now, roughly.
It went from like 1 to 3.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you said at least 2.5%.
2.5% is what I shoot for, but there are special exceptions. I think I started buying United Health at like a 2.1 or 2% flat. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you're getting into stock like that, I mean, it's a blue chip that's sold that far. I mean, would you say that UNH, like over the past 5 years, has been the biggest value play?
Not the past 5 years. If you look at their share price,
I'm talking about from it falling. Like if you had to take any other stock that's fallen like that in the past 5 years.
Oh, if you're talking that essence or whatever, yes. Yeah. It's probably the safest one, if that's what there's other ones that it's like it's pretty good and pretty likely that it's going to go up, but what you think might be a 2-year play might become a 5-year play overnight. You never know.
Yeah, because UNH is just huge. Largest health insurance company in the United States. But yeah, and
a caveat to that too, what you think is a 2 to 5 year play sometimes can be a less than a year play. Like with Eastman Chemical, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy 50 shares now, I'm going to add some more, keep going, and all of a sudden it's like they went from 50 to 80 and it's like, okay, I guess I'm not adding anymore.
Yeah, true. True. Yeah, you gotta know the hardest part is this is something I really do want to talk about. I've always said, like, if you're looking at a single stock, let's say you've done your research, it's valuable, let's say it's going down, it's easy to know when to start buying in because it's been getting killed. Here's the biggest question, and it's what I try to wrap my head around.
It's hard.
When do you sell?
Oh, that is a great question.
Yeah,
when I first started investing, even when I was doing, stupid, like, speculatory buying, like Jumia, like all these, like really out of nowhere companies that, you've never even heard of, limited financial information on them, not profitable. I was historically always really good at picking when to buy because I could ride up really good. But when I first started, it would be like, well, I'm up 100%. Well, obviously it's going to keep going. Why would I sell now? And I would hold it all the way into a loss, and I'd be like, well, shit.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, what do I do now? And you got to kind of set what would I think would be a good price to enter, and what would I think would be a good price based on the earnings to exit.
You gotta stick to it.
You gotta stick to it.
Yeah.
Unless something changes where it's better than you expected in terms of earnings, you can readjust your math. There's a lot of math that goes into it. I'm reading security analysis right now, and one of my favorite sections so far that I've read is they've pretty much made the analogy that stock picking isn't necessarily a science, it's an art. Science can be taught, art is more of learned and refined. So it's more of an art because you can look at all different things. You can look at what people say online. This is what I like to look at. This is, the fundamentals you want to look for. But at the end of the day, it's your craft. It's your art. And you refine it over time.
Right.
Yeah. Because there is no one-size-fits-all method. That's the beauty of investing in stocks. It's completely based on what you would expect on your math on your certain cash flows. You know, you can use your discounted cash flow or free cash flow margin or something along that, you know, spectrum of margin, like metrics.
Yeah. No, a lot of different math, a lot of different margins. Unfortunately, you know, the past like year or so, you'd say most people were not going off of that stuff, obviously.
No.
'Cause of all the hype, you know,
Everybody doesn't care if this stock went up 500% in a year. I'm going to take and buy the top of the bubble, or buy the top of, buy it at a 52-week high, or buy it at an all-time high.
The bubble boys.
Yeah, I try to avoid buying anything at an all-time high or a 52-week high, because generally speaking, there's just, the math is working against you in some cases. Not always, but some. And most.
A little bit prediction time here. With big tech right now, we've seen it. I mean, I don't think big tech or the NASDAQ, I don't think has hit all-time highs since October of last year. I'm pretty sure. And you're starting to kind of see
I mean, you're seeing people getting a little nervous with lofty and frothy valuations. I mean, you've seen a lot of AI-based names, especially Oracle, just taken on the chin over this past year, or trade flat. You know, I mean, it's going to happen eventually. It might not happen tomorrow, but I think a lot of the people that are like, well, no, AI is different. It's not going to be a bubble. It's not going to drop like .com. It's not going to drop like every single bubble prior to this. You know, the railroad bubbles and the biggest bubble that, you know, in our country's history so far, the 1930s Great Depression.
Yeah.
You know, the 1920s leading up to it was like just crazy, you know, growth all the time in equities. But there's always a bubble. It'll end up popping at some point. Nobody can truly predict when. It's probably going to happen when some major companies miss some very major expected earnings. Because right now, like I said, they're priced to perfection. So they've got to continue to deliver and beat earnings. If they don't, I think that's when you start seeing the start. Especially if you look at underlying economics. A lot of consumers are not exactly comfortable nowadays. K-shaped economy is a real thing. You know?
K-shaped economy.
Yeah.
Explain that.
The wealthy top percentages of the nation are increasingly contributing more to the economy's growth than is the middle class
true.
and
the
the
Mag
poor.
7.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm talking consumer-wise.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, K-shaped economy. The richer of the people tend to be contributing more now than the middle class and the poor, which on its own isn't always necessarily a terrible thing. You can have a K-shaped economy that continues to grow. It's just, it becomes a little bit more of threading the needle at some point. Because when metrics get hard and
something corrects.
When something corrects, you know, the rich people aren't going to leave their money in the markets. They're gonna be selling off before everybody else realizes it, and it's going to be, they're out already. You know, they're no longer going to be buying. They're going to take their money out of the market. They're going to hedge. They're not going to buy their second Ferrari or their third Lamborghini or whatever, you know, they buy, and they're not going to go on their fancy vacations. They're going to hunker down a little bit more. And when that happens, that's when you'll start to see the dominoes kind of go.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with a K-shaped economy, if you have a lot of different things in, like, for example, the Mag 7, I mean, everyone's 401ks are going to feel it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Especially,
retirement accounts.
I want to say most of the S&P 500's value is now contributed to the Mag 7. I mean, these major companies have spent the entirety, I think it was, of Sweden's economy that they spent in a year. They spent that just on CapEx. So, you know, I mean, Microsoft got kind of punished over the last earnings because people are getting upset with how much CapEx they're spending. They're like, are we going to see a payoff on this? Nobody knows yet.
No, nobody does know. It's really a big bet. It's going to be maybe like the .com. It's the bet of the decade.
Yeah, it's the bet of the decade. It's, you know, it's gonna be like the .com in a way of like, it will increase productivity. This is a lot different than .com. There was a lot of real world use cases.
Sure.
I mean, even with the internet, it was so new. It's like you can do anything on the internet. It's the same with AI. It's just, it's not going to happen all at once. If you ask somebody back in the 90s about what internet is today, they'd just laugh at you. You know,
right.
I remember as a kid, we still had dial-up at our house until I was, I think, 6, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna go do the dishes, or I'm gonna go do some chores while the while the internet gets connected to the computer.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Oh yeah, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
Hypothetical scenario, AI. Let's say doomsday scenario. It starts automating a ton of jobs like crazy. You know, you got like 50% of the company all of a sudden gets laid off, or the country gets laid off.
Well, layoffs are already happening due to AI too.
Yeah. People have said, and this is kind of more of like a big political topic, but people have said that like at some point, Elon Musk has said this too, at some point you get to a point where you're going to have like UBI.
I don't know. I mean,
other people like Sam Altman have said it would be something like, what did he propose? He said like AI would have a measured amount of compute that everyone would have like stake in or something like that.
I mean, UBI is great. All these different claims are great, but I just don't see it happening. I don't think AI is going to be able to take every single job, that's there, even 50% of the jobs. I think, like anything, when the Industrial Revolution first started, everybody's like, well, where are we going to go work? Because now there's not a whole lot of farming jobs because the steam engine, everything's modernizing farming. I think it's the same thing. There's always new jobs created in every single revolution. We just don't know what they are yet. Nobody knew they'd go working in a factory and living in a big city. That was something that was new at the time.
That's true. I think this is something we disagree on because I believe that AI, I don't think we've ever seen anything like this before in terms of, we've seen new tools and new technologies developed, but we've never seen potentially a new tool or technology developed that can learn on its own to do other things.
It doesn't totally learn on its own yet. You still have to guide its hand.
Not yet. But
you can give it
everyone's afraid. I agree. If AGI, the thought of AGI is a fantasy, and it's just AI's there, it'll automate things, but we have to keep improving it, and it's really just going to be a tool on steroids that at some point someone's going to have to put a prompt in. Then yeah, I'm not worried. The whole fear is the whole AGI point. Do we develop this to the point where it learns on its own, it can do all these tasks, and it can just expand from there? It can learn about, biology, and then you could stick it in a robot, and it could start doing those kinds of things. That's the real fear.
It's, it is a real concern. I think it's a real possibility, but at the same time, there's this saying about nuclear energy that fusion is always just 5 to 10 years away, or whatever the saying. It's always just around the corner, and I've been seeing
quantum computing too.
Yeah, quantum computing's always just around the corner. I think AGI is probably going to end up being the same thing. It's going to happen next year. Well, maybe it's going to happen 5 years from now. 10 years from now. And then it's going to be like every 10 years. Another 10 years.
That's very possible. That's very possible. And I mean, the companies would be more incentivized to keep saying that, because otherwise if they came out and said, listen guys, AGI is never going to happen, people would draw their money.
Yeah, and then how do you have your continued investment? It's
right, because the AI race and the bet right now is that AGI point. Everyone's racing to this theoretical point that AGI kind of starts learning on its own, and it's like, oh, that's called quantum physics. I'll go learn that. Give me a second. Oh, now I know it. And you didn't have to do anything. I
mean, look at OpenAI. They need that investor dollars. They're burning billions upon billions a year. That's not sustainable in the long term. You're going to have the Mag 7 continue to pump money in. You're going to have wealthy investors continue to pump money in, but eventually they're going to want to see a return on that money.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So pivoting a little bit.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about, because there's something else on one of your bullet points, college. Degrees, things like that. So obviously, like we touched on before, you moved to where we're located now. We met in high school. You kind of started working for your parents' company, ag industry. From that point on, you started getting into individual stock investing and things of that nature, developed your own kind of strategy. We've been talking about AI and all these different things. During that, after high school, at least, also while you were kind of refining your own stock picking and things like that, we went to college.
Yes.
So you went to college, you got a degree.
I did. It was kind of a backup plan, right? I mean, the degree I got was business administration and management, had a pretty bigger focus on the entrepreneurial part of it. What else do you want to kind of go on about that?
Yeah, so, I mean, you started at community college.
Yes, the smart way to do college.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah, so basically I want to talk about, the affordability of college, the methods you got to get through it affordably, and how you think other people, like I myself have done too, how other people can still utilize college without getting in like so much debt. Because that's the big problem
I
now,
mean,
man.
that is partially a choice. That might be very unpopular to say, but that was 100% a choice, and I think that you can easily do it a completely different way. You don't have to go to a 4-year right away. I mean, if you want the college experience, yeah, go to a 4-year right away. Because I moved in with you, and I stopped going to my community college. I lived with you. You were gracious enough to, like, hey, you can stay with me rent-free, just sleep on the couch with an air mattress. I don't care. It'll be fun. And, you can save money that way if you have a friend like I have, or, you go to your community college first. You get all your gen eds out of the way, all the cores that you can take and do. I was able to do almost 4 years,
Stuff in high school, too.
Yeah.
High school.
I didn't do that in high school. I
did.
We was too busy having fun.
We had a... yeah. Bro wasn't fully locked in yet.
No, I was not fully locked in yet. I had a little bit of a partying phase.
Yeah, I mean, in high school we had a dual enrollment program. So basically we could take college credit classes at our high school, and the high school would cover the cost. And so I got like 16 credits prior to graduating. I got it in research writing, rhet and comp, psychology, and sociology. So I got all those gen eds out of the way before I even graduated high school. That's huge, guys. And then also, too, I got to pound the table on community colleges.
Cheap.
Yeah, they're going to be more important going forward if you want to get a degree. I went to a community college for 3 years prior to going to a 4-year university to finish up my last year and a half, as I mentioned on the channel.
I did. Yeah, I did 4, finished up my last. Because I took kind of a semester break halfway through college, and so it kind of pushed me back an extra semester. But the way it worked out, it ended up being like 5 years instead of 4. It was a weird thing. But yeah, it's way cheaper. I mean, depending on the job you have, you can pretty much cash flow through a community college. It's not that bad. And the quality of education's just as good, I have to say.
Right. And I mean, if you're looking at, because you do want to get a bachelor's and up these days, but, you can get first 2 years out of the way, because that's community colleges. That's like their whole selling point is that, we get your gen eds and all this stuff out of the way, and then we transfer really well to a 4-year, something like that.
And it's important to note, too, some of my most influential professors I've had so far in my life, people I kind of was able to talk to, people I was able to refine my ideas with, all came from my first few years at the community college we went to.
Mm.
They were more influential to me than a lot of the professors at the 4-year.
Yeah. One of the things I've always said about just college in general, too, we can talk about the most valuable things about college, because right now, obviously, it's a really hot topic to dog college. It's a big thing.
It is, yes.
We can get there.
You can do it the right way, though. You can do it the right way. You don't need to go out and take $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 of debt just for college. I mean, your return on investment, I guess you could say, isn't there anymore. I mean, you can make any argument, both sides of the spectrum, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, about cost of college, all these different things. And yes, affordability, it is more expensive. Part of that could be, influenced by the fact that the government decided to be like, hey, we'll give you subsidized loans, and colleges are like, great, let's jack up these rates because now we get to compete with, who can get the best government loan.
Yeah,
it's no longer a cost thing.
That's true.
It's how many amenities can I offer?
Yeah, nobody talks about what the government did with all that. Yeah, that's a big point. But I've always said that one of the biggest assets going to college, at least for me, was the connections I made.
Yes.
Reaching out to people and everything like that. What happened specifically in your college experience that let you get, connections and things like that really promoted your career?
When I first started going to community college, one of my professors, I guess, noticed something about me, is what he said. Because he's like, I wrote, you have to do these journal things and whatnot about whatever. And I wrote the journal, gave some different extra information just about what I do for work. Because he's like, it was a get to know you thing. And he's like, I found that really interesting. If you ever want to meet in my office, we can talk more about this. I think I'd like to pick your brain on some things. And we got to talking, and he's just like, he was really impressed of who I was coming through his class, because he hasn't really seen that before, aside from maybe 1 or 2 other students in all of his years of teaching. I know it sounds like I'm kind of talking myself up, but it's just kind of what he said in the
true, because,
email.
I mean, to be honest, most kids go to college to then go into entrepreneurship or something like that after. You were already having, you already had experience coming into college.
The jobs before I had the degree. It was really, really weird. Because like the S Corp, I got a near controlling interest in. I was already vice president of that company before I had my business admin degree. So it was a completely different like situation, I guess, on my end. I mean, he even pulled me aside in the hallway one of my last years when I was at our community college. He pulled me over and he had to shake my hand. He goes, I just got to thank you for all like the quality work you did in my class because I have somebody with your exact same name. And every time I see their name, I get excited that it's going to be really quality work. And it's I read it and I go, oh.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so that was kind of a cool experience to have, I guess.
Yeah, those do feel good. Definitely for sure. I got my, as I said this on the channel too, I got my internship and my first job all from one of my teachers at the four-year university. So that was huge. My teachers have been awesome, both at the community college and at the university. So I've honestly had no complaints. Obviously, I've been open about it. I've had help going through college financially. But again, that doesn't negate the fact that guys definitely do not like. I do feel like going to a 4-year straight out of high school, it's like financial. You can't say
suicide.
the S word anymore. You can't say
you can't say that.
You can't say that, but like deletion, it's like it's over, So definitely, guys.
The alcohol will push this down now.
yeah. I mean, maybe I'll bleep that out.
Blank.
Yeah, exactly. But definitely take advantage of community college and things like that. But overall, going forward, you think the value of degrees are gonna go down?
I think
and the trades obviously are
trades are huge. I mean, anybody could have seen that coming a mile away. I mean, we had a trades deficit for years now. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the rhetoric too. Better go get good grades or you're going to end up like your Uncle John. He's a plumber. I mean, Uncle John's making 6 figures a year starting out, okay, maybe that's not a bad idea, Mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where the trades are looked down upon for absolutely no reason. Without the trades, a lot of us white-collar folk would, we wouldn't be able to get to work. We wouldn't be able to drive the cars we have parked in our driveways.
So the pros and cons I see of the trades is one, I do think some of the best in those trades can make those 6-figure incomes. I don't think that's the standard. I've heard of a lot of people around here, 50, 60.
That's still not bad, especially around here. It's still higher paying than a lot of your average college degrees nowadays. I mean, starting as a plumber up here is like 50, 60 grand, 70 maybe, depending on if you get a good employer. Some of the electricians, apprentice and electrician stuff, that pays really good starting out. Obviously, if you're just nailing boards to a wall in construction or laying bricks, you're not going to be paid as much as somebody that has like a welding skill or something like that. But it still doesn't pay bad. I mean, the deer bait business that I help my buddy with when he needs me, mainly in the fall, I think just bagging some corn or bagging some apples or beets and throwing them on a pallet and wrapping them. We're paid piecework, but I'm able to make 30 something an hour when I work there.
Wow.
So, I mean, for a side gig that you do at night, I mean, can't get any better.
Right. Yeah.
Make your own hours too.
And obviously, a lot of Gen Z now has shifted to the trades. Obviously, that's fear of AI. That gets back to, again, physical labor. Trades are physical.
Yeah.
So those are going to be the last things replaced. Yeah. If the doomsday scenario occurs where AI goes on a job replacement spree, I mean, you're reducing the risk by getting into the trade, so I agree with that. And also, I mean, trades is like a year or two?
It depends. I mean, some you can start out right on the job and you'll be taught as you go. There's stuff like that. There is trade schools. It really depends on kind of what you go down.
Right, yeah. But it's not like, 4
No,
8,
it's not 4, 5, 6,
the college
8 years.
Suck the life out of you.
12. Yeah.
Oh, the whole time. Yeah, it's been a curing interest, G.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I've
your ROI on the trades right now is just ridiculous. I mean, it's good. Even like low skill stuff, like what I do, if you have the work ethic, which it matters a lot these days. If you have the work ethic, piecework like what I do can be very, very lucrative. You just got to have the drive and the ambition. You can't be like, I want to do this, but then only do, I don't want to talk bad about my coworkers, but like I have other people that work there, with me sometimes, and I kind of became like the nighttime kind of like trainer and lead because.
Oh, you training people?
Yeah, I train people in for nighttime work. Almost nobody would ever stay night or day because just the work, it's harder work, you're going to be a little sore, but then a lot of people too, like I don't understand it. Like they'd come in, they'd do a pallet, go play on their phone, then they go do another pallet. They're there for like 4 hours.
Really?
They're there for like 4 hours and they get like 3 or 5 pallets, whereas I'll be there from about the same amount of time. If you're talking corn, like the average person would get like 5 and I'd have like 16, 17 pallets already. And it's like, I don't know what you're doing. Like 3 pallets in 5 hours? It takes 20 minutes per pallet, maybe 30 if you're new, and 40 if you're really slow at learning it. So it's not something that should be that hard, and like not many people would last, I guess. Which I would tell my buddies, like overall warehouse manager, the one that his brother runs it for him, and I would tell him, I don't understand why people can't make a go of it. Like it's not like it's hard work. It's just lifting 50-pound bags or 20-pound bags.
Probably the caveats to things like the trades, obviously a couple things. One, it can be physically taxing.
Yeah. But,
yeah. And dangerous. So
yeah, it can be taxing and dangerous, but I mean,
a lot of people get. I think,
especially when I do, it's not that dangerous.
No,
it's taxing. It's taxing. I'd get a pretty stiff neck or sore shoulder, or my wrist tends to get pretty stiff when I do it if I have the wrong gloves on. But I mean, just pop a couple Tylenol or a couple ibuprofen and keep going. It's not. Right. I don't want to say man up because that's not really the appropriate term nowadays. So maybe buck up and just do your job. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was never raised like, oh, my arm hurts. I guess I'm going to go lay down now. I don't know.
No, you're kind of crazy. You don't sleep.
No, especially, it's like, with ag, it's a seasonal business, and so is deer bait. So like starting September until November.
Let's get into like your yearly. Okay, so if you guys, so obviously you guys are getting the picture during this podcast. He's like one of these Elon Musk like hustler types, obviously. Let's go through like your year. Like what is like the yearly schedule? What parts of the years is it more chill? And what parts of the years are you like just like, no, I'm not going to sleep till tomorrow. Like, yeah.
So I guess we'll continue where I was going with the fall because that's where we kind of just left off there.
Right.
So come fall, the farm, the ag business, it's still pretty busy. I mean, it's very busy. Like I said, 3 markets a week plus selling at the business itself and all this other stuff in between. Maintenance maybe that might be required or whatever, and then that's start my day around 6, 7, 8 o'clock depending on the day. Generally speaking it's 6. In the fall when I start doing the deer bait business, it is more so I'll sleep whenever I get a chance, I guess, because I'll get done with work, I'll quickly eat my dinner, and then I'll run to the warehouse job from anywhere between 8:30 until midnight or 1. Except this year, I decided to help out a little bit more at the warehouse because they couldn't get enough good workers. I was one of the only ones left from like the last 3 years of doing it that were really, really good. So I told them, yeah, okay, I'll stay and make sure any loads that need to go out in the semi are done before I go home for the night. So sometimes I'd be there till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, but you still got to be up at 6, 7, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, so I mean, like when you're doing that, like summer into the fall, you're probably averaging 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night,
give or take. There's a couple, especially this last year, I had a bunch of business type of trips I had to do to Wisconsin back to back, like 2 days in a row with the warehouse work. So that was the first day I didn't sleep at all. I just ran on Ghost Energy drinks or whatever I could have. Then the next night, I slept about 4 hours, and then I went to my other business job, or not other business job, but for the same, farm up north to one of the markets, and so that was a little bit of a long stretch, So
yeah,
you gotta be able to.
It takes its toll though, because he would come over, and he'd crash at my place, and it'd be like 12 to 14 hour like sleeps, just like, oh dude, I needed that, like I was dying, like. Yeah, man. Like, but during the winter, like winter months, it chills out.
Come December, so I still have some stuff to do. You gotta do all the winter prep and all that different stuff. So come middle of December, it usually slows down pretty good. and you're not worrying too much about anything, just kind of like, well, I hope it's a good winter. Do any kind of maintenance you couldn't work on throughout the summer. Maybe do some repairs on your truck that were more cosmetic, or on your vehicles or on your equipment or whatever. Same thing with January. You start getting a little busier. You start looking at different orders you need to place for the coming season. You gotta take and get supplies ready, like maybe slab wood for your burning operations that you need to do through making different products.
Right.
Then it slowly picks up, and then you get into June. That's when it's like you hit the ground running, balls to the walls, and then it slows down a little bit again, and then it picks up a lot when the deer feed business starts up.
I like that we're on this topic, because now we're getting into like business ownership, the perspective of a business owner. What about like you talked a little bit about planning. What about like margins, risks assessment? All these different things you got to think about as a business owner running a business. Let's like go through it.
So what do you want to know about first? You want to know about margins first and revenues?
Really, honestly,
we can touch on that first.
Start anywhere.
Okay, we'll start at revenues, because it's not always just about revenues, right? Like everybody's like, man, I made like $200K with my business this last month or this last year or whatever. Okay, but what's your profit margin? If you're running like a 5% profit margin on $200K, you're not really doing anything. But okay, let's say, for example, I made $100,000 in the past 6 months. And okay, I'm making half of these other guys, right? Like half this other guy. But his margin's 5-10%. Let's say mine sits for my business between, I'm not going to go specific, so I'll give a range, between 50 to 80% profit margin. It sounds a heck of a lot better to have 50 to 80% of the money you take and earn come home with you. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Revenues, margins. What about risk?
Risk is important. What do you want to know about risk? I guess it's, because risk can be a big, broad spectrum.
Yeah, so like what about like, so you talked about planning in the future for like orders and things like that.
Yeah.
Preparing for like inventory. Basically, if you order too much or too little, like what kind of thing?
Well, it depends on your product. Some products can last 2 years, if you're going on an expiration date, or if you're looking at seed vitality, you're looking at anywhere between a year to 5 years or even longer. I mean, we threw out some seeds that we were like, they'll never grow, and then every single one grew in a giant pile. So it's like, okay, it depends.
Yeah.
But
true.
Risk as an overall thing, I guess, it's different for everybody, right? If you have like a wife and kids and you're starting your first business in your 30s, you're not going to want to take as much risk as somebody that's like us in our early to mid 20s. We're able to, especially with my parents, when I first started out, like my entrepreneurial stuff, they're like, take as much risk as possible now. You have a place to fall back on. If you fail,
that's huge.
If you fail, you have a place to go. You're not going to, have no place to sleep. You're not going to not have food to eat. So risk is different for everybody. I was just kind of like you, fortunate that I had some pretty baller parents.
Yeah, that's true. That are willing to help out. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have parents like that. I've literally had people tell me that they wish they could pass their debt to their kids.
I mean, I don't know if this is good for the algo, but that's pretty fucked up.
That is.
Your debt is your debt. I think, you pay off your own debt. If your kid signs off on your debt, that's a completely different story. If they're like, yeah, mom, dad, go max out your credit card. I'll sign the guarantorship for you. That's different. But, even now, like, it was being able to live at home allowed me to stack up a lot of cash for investing. I mean, even now at 25, I'm not ashamed to admit, I still live at home because I'm still building my businesses. I'm still working on my parents' business with them. And they actively encourage me not to move out because I was thinking kind of about maybe doing something like that over the next, year-ish. And they're like, well, why wouldn't you wait until like 1, 2, 3 years maybe? Because then maybe you can just buy a house cash. Or you can buy the property next to us and just build a house. And it's like, okay, that's a good idea. So there's nothing wrong with living at home.
Dave Ramsey would be very upset.
Mid-20s. Well, maybe, but
I think he's really big on like 18. Get out your parents' house.
But can you really do that nowadays?
That's
a good question. I don't think you can nowadays. I think some kids are forced to nowadays, but I don't think you're actually. I don't think if I had to give my opinion, I don't think it's a good idea. Unless your parents are pretty much like, no, get out. I mean, if they're encouraging you to stay, save up your money, be smart, like, I don't think my parents would probably want me there if I was being done with my money. Maybe I'm
That's true.
drinking a 12-pack of beer every day and going to the bars or something and blowing my money on useless stuff. Maybe then they'd be like, either you pay rent or leave. But, I mean, I'm doing smart stuff with my money. I'm being smart. I think that has a lot to do with it, too. And like I said, I'm lucky they're very, very insistent on being like, stay here as long as possible. You know, you want to continue to scale your companies. You want to continue to build your businesses. Help us continue to build the business that, you know, we cut you in on after you worked. Because I didn't start at the top of my parents' company either. I started at the bottom.
Right, barely making anything.
I was a peon, you know. I will admit, I was making $5 an hour when I was in high school.
Yeah.
You know, it was not a lot of money. I mean, even back then, minimum wage was, you know, $7.25, but you know, I'm their kid, so they can get away with it. Like, there's certain things.
They're like, yeah.
This is
you
your
pay the bills. Oh, I didn't think so.
This is your allowance, you know, for your chores.
Yeah.
And as time went on, I graduated high school. Then I started making $8 an hour. Then I, you know, got through the community college, started making a little bit more. Started making my products I introduced were my money, and then what they had was their money. And then when I graduated, it was okay. You're going to get X amount of commissions. And then I got my last giant raise to, I want to say it was like a 50% raise or whatever it was, where I just make like half whatever they make. So that's when you notice a big difference.
Right, yeah.
In your ability to do things like stocks and everything else.
So I think what's really big and common in our lives that I think is probably absent in a lot of kids in our generation is not that we were given everything, but we were given, you would say, like a foundation, something to fall back
I would think I was given an opportunity. I wasn't handed just position. I had to work my way up. I had some friends, now acquaintances in the past that were like, well, you were just handed your position at your parents' company. And it's like, you of all people should know what I had to do before having the nice job.
Right.
I was getting my hands dirty. I was full of dirt. I was... You know, I still get full of dirt today, but I just have more broad encompassing responsibilities and realities.
Right. No, so it's from that perspective, what I was bringing up, it's more about, you know, the fallback on. You got parents that support you.
Yes.
You know?
I mean, it's, like I said again, I'll say it again, I'm very lucky to be able to have parents that are like, yeah, we don't want you moving out. It would be a really stupid idea to do right now.
Yeah. I think so too, man. I think more kids in our generation are staying at home, which, you know, a lot of like
for better
older
or
people,
for
yeah, for better or for worse. Like there's definitely worse situations where it's like, dude, you probably should do something.
Yeah, like
obviously.
Don't just sit in your parents' basement and smoke pot or whatever.
Yeah, but like, dude, like, yeah, if your parents support you and they're willing to keep you at home, dude, like, yeah, stack the bread.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I'll be honest, you know, you have your own place now. And sometimes I think to myself, man, it'd be really nice to be independent, really be nice to have a whole place of my own. But then reality hits me. It's like, do I really want to have those kind of expenses, or would I rather just put every single $3 back into the stock market?
Right. And I mean, I didn't purchase this. I got this from my dad passing. Yeah. So, you know, it's not the same thing. Again, I'm 100% with you guys. I'm not going to be on here and I'm going to be like, yeah, dude, I bought this $150,000 house and like, I'm rags to riches, guys. Like, no, I've had help for sure. But independence is nice, but I don't think it's worth
debt.
I would not have gone into debt to buy this house currently where I'm at, you know. So, no, that's important.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, if there's one key takeaway, it's just debt isn't always your friend. It can be really great for growth, but you know, it's a double-edged sword. You can screw yourself over really fast.
I should take out a mortgage against this house and put it into UNH.
Yeah, HELOC on your house.
Yeah. Go. The definition of like, if there was an all-in of all-in.
Yeah.
Mom will let you know. I lost the house.
Yeah. So I think, you know, obviously never take advantage of your parents or anything, but if they're completely willing, and in my case, they're like insisting, never be afraid to take help when you can get help.
Or it's probably the hardest part's probably obviously the self-image of that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
like a lot of people
probably Oh, from that sense too, self-image, you feel bad or whatever. But I was thinking you were going another way of like, well, people are looking at you. You're 25 and you still live at home.
Oh yeah, that's like, what I mean.
Like
yeah.
What it's like? How could you? Like that's a loser vibe. It's like okay,
self-image and external image.
Okay, sure. Call me a loser all you want. Do you own 2 companies? Do you have a large stock portfolio? Like no, obviously not. So you're not hurting my feelings any. Like I don't care.
Yeah, true.
I'm very happy to announce it.
Yeah. No, that's I think that makes a lot of people obviously feel like their own self-worth isn't there because they still live at home, and we just live in a different economic time now.
I mean, you can still be very successful living at home. I'm on my local DDA board. You know, that's a kind of political position thing.
Yeah.
And I also recently got on another board for the business conferences I go to. The people that plan it, they gave me a phone call. Literally, what was it, last week I think I messaged you about it?
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, there's a board open and we couldn't think of anybody better. You contributed a lot at the round table we sat at. We really want you on the board for next year to, do webinars and help us build out this conference that we do every year. And I was like, all right, yeah, this sounds fun.
Okay. Let's get into that chapter. So
all
we covered kind of like upbringing, we covered school, college, investments, we covered business owner, family business, that kind of stuff.
I think there is one more thing to add about, your college degree. Again, I think a college degree is important, but it's not the only thing that's important. And this might not be popular to say, but work ethic. Work ethic matters a million times more than any degree you're ever going to get. A degree hardly even shows your skills. It shows that you can complete a task within a given amount of time.
Yeah, I would say, I'll keep it real with you guys that are getting into cyber. I think like a degree is important, especially for like the job filtering. But I mean, my manager straight up told me when he was going through his hiring process, he did not even care about degrees. Like they show that you can complete something. It's again, just like the certifications I bring up to you guys, it's really HR stuff. A lot of the skills you got to develop hands-on, and a lot of things you need to develop on the job.
And interpersonal skills too. A lot of those matter a lot. Your communication skills. I made a
video on it. Yeah. Soft skills. Yeah.
Networking abilities is huge. Your ambition, which is closely tied to work ethic. I mean, an employer is going to see if you're ambitious the moment you walk in the door. Is your tie straight if you're wearing a tie? Is your hair done right? How do you present yourself? Do you stand up straight? Are you, joyful? How firm was your handshake? All of these things matter so much. I don't think anybody really gives the attention to that detail that it actually is that important.
Something I brought up too, do you ask questions?
Yeah, you should ask questions too. Never be afraid. Hey,
always.
Let's negotiate the starting pay. You're offering this. I think my skills are worth this. And if they say no, how can we work to this? Don't just say, oh, okay. Okay is never
you probably don't want to bring up pay right away.
Not right away. That's towards the end of different
maybe
interviews.
A couple interviews in.
Yeah, I'm not saying the first one. It depends if it's if it's like a 3-stage interview or like a 1-stage interview. It depends.
Yeah.
Good clarification there. I think another one too, drive and grit will always outweigh the value of your degree. That's a really big one as well.
Yeah.
Grit is huge. Are you going to take the effort to stay a couple hours later if they need some tasks done? And a lot of people, I've seen it all over Twitter. I've seen it I'm not staying a minute later than I have to. I refuse because that is not my, prerogative, not my job. Yeah, but, somebody else will get the promotion, then you'll be complaining about it when they get the promotion. It's not fair. It's not fair.
Now here's the steel
Show
man.
Your work ethic.
Here's the steel man for that. The fear obviously is that you put in that effort and you don't get the promotion.
Well, you just keep working harder.
Or someone else, whatever it be, internal politics to make the company look better. They want to promote somebody over someone else.
And that is why you make yourself indispensable. If you make yourself indispensable, your job is more than secure. Whether that's through a skill nobody else has, being well-liked. I mean, there's a ton of different ways you can do it.
That's true. I mean, my uncle would always talk about, you want to be, the guy for a specific specialty within a company,
if you are going around with layoffs, you want to be the guy that's like, well, we can't get rid of him because he knows how to do this exact thing. Without him, we'd be screwed.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
So it'd be like, even the other person, maybe, if you make yourself indispensable and you really volunteer your time, not always, it doesn't have to be volunteer, I'd say volunteer your time because, you're staying longer than what
you get paid for.
Well, yeah, obviously you're going to get paid for it. But, you're volunteering to stay longer, not that you're doing it for free.
Right.
But, you always will offer to stay later if something needs done, and we couldn't get it done in the working day. He knows this very specific skill set. He's well liked. Then it's like, your job's safe. You're good.
Mm-hmm.
And you should be able to get the promotion then. That's why I get so much winter jobs from my friend with the deer bait business. I stay way later than everybody else. I get more done in the same amount of time. I make myself indispensable. It's really that simple for...
Right. My job's like a strict, hardline 40 hours. Although I have... for my job as a SOC analyst, we have 24/7, 365 coverage. We have to have it for compliance. I haven't had to stay really late yet. It's been 40 hours, but I've offered. I've been prepared because someone came or couldn't get a hold of somebody, something like that. I've offered to my boss, hey, I'll cover the gap, because otherwise you're going to be kind of holding your what in your hand.
They all like you at your job too.
Oh, yeah.
Because you show initiative.
Yeah, that's true, and just no complaining and just get shit done.
Yeah, just do your job. No reason to complain. That's what you signed up for.
But then always, I'll say, always keep your eyes out, guys, for other opportunities as well. Don't pigeonhole yourself. I really do want to believe that you want to give your best to your company, but you never know when they might let you go or when they might not want to give you a raise. And if they don't see the value in you that you see in yourself, then have your eyes open and look to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree with that, but you also have to be careful too. I've seen some people that are like, I'm worth $100,000 a year, and it's you do $50,000 a year in quality work.
Yeah, you got to be, again, it's got to be reasonable.
Yeah.
There's so much in this that's so situation based for sure.
It depends on everybody. One of my most influential business professors had this catchphrase. He goes, "What do I always say? What's always my answer? It depends."
Right.
Yeah, it depends on so many different varieties and variables.
Right. Yeah, you guys are getting the two different perspective here of I'm your W-2, and I'm talking with someone who's the business owner, so you're getting kind of two different perspectives of things. You'll see biases one way or another, but that's the point of the podcast, right?
Yeah.
So I want to talk about
one more thing too to add. When you own your own business, it's not a 40-hour work week.
No,
You'll
that's
never
true.
have a 40-hour work week in your entire entrepreneurship business career, I could say.
That's true.
Even if you think you're going to take a step back, if you truly care about your company succeeding, if you truly care about, growing and making the money you want to make, you're not going to take and be able to sleep well at night only working 40 hours. You're going to work until you're tired. You're going to work until you can't. You're going to be doing everything you can. What if I play with these numbers? What if I switch this operating procedure around? It's just, there's so many different things. You'll always have something to do.
And reinvestment.
Yes.
Yeah. So you would always talk about too as a business owner, for a long time when you're getting a business started, how long would you say typically you're reinvesting into the company?
It depends on how big you want to get.
Yeah.
But with our company, at least my parents' company that I run with them now, it's been reinvesting over the past 10 years.
Damn.
We haven't bought, aside from myself, when I got my pay raise, I bought myself a Cadillac. Lifestyle creep's a thing. You gotta be very careful.
Real.
You gotta be very careful. You can get yourself one good purchase, one nice thing, but don't make it a habit. I bought myself a really nice truck and a really nice Cadillac last year.
He drives down the street and he's pissed because a rock hit it,
Or when I first picked you up to show you, and we hit this gigantic pothole in the middle of nowhere.
You're like, fuck! Yeah.
So, you make more money, yes, but at the end of the day, aside from that 1-2 purchases, the truck I bought, even though it's nice, was a business expense. It was necessary for work because, you can attest to my old truck. That thing was ready to go. I ran that thing until it couldn't, just because every single dollar I made extra with that truck was another dollar saved because I didn't buy a new one. Mm-hmm. Reinvestment is big. We've been reinvesting, like I said, for the last 10 years. We're going to probably continue to reinvest for the next at least 5 to 10 because we want to continue to grow. We want to continue to get bigger, make more money, everything like that. Right now, I want to say I'm reinvesting, since I do live at home, I'm reinvesting 90% of what I make in some way or shape or form. Some of it might go to the family business, another portion of it goes to the stock market that I have in my individual portfolio, or another different section goes into like a fund I'm creating to open an investment group with some friends. So it's different business ventures. It's going somewhere that isn't, fun. Even though I love investing is fun to me, it's still kind of work.
I watch a lot of Shark Tank. At what point do you think it makes sense for someone, because these are all people that are trying to get businesses going or growing them, things like that. At what point do you think it's worth having outside investors?
I guess
it equity stake
depends on how you feel. Me personally, I don't like other people owning my stuff.
No?
The S Corp, that's a little bit different of a story. That I didn't start that. I had an opportunity to buy in. I bought in a decently controlling, not controlling, I keep saying controlling, but it's near controlling. It's like the way ownership is split up, it's considered controlling if your vote is like large enough to sway, I guess, if that makes sense.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it depends on your, prerogative if you want people to be telling you what to do or not with your equity.
You personally, you don't like.
Well, yeah, no. If you have investors, they're going to be like, I want you to do this with my money. I want this to happen. And it's like, what if I know what's best for this business and this is what's best? The freedom of movement, you cannot underestimate and underappreciate the freedom of decision making and movement as a business owner.
Right. And obviously the people that are going on Shark Tank have weighed out that they value the capital that they need to grow the business.
Some of the businesses I see go on there, they have really good margins and make really good money. And I'm just like, why? Even the sharks ask them, why?
Oh, yeah. I've seen those where they're sitting there and they're like, why are you here?
Yeah, like, why are you here? There's no reason for you to be here. And a lot of times, the real reason they're on there?
Oh,
they want exposure.
The exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the free media.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can tell when someone is on Shark Tank for the free media.
Yeah,
it's like, I made $100,000 in profit last year, and we invested this much, reinvested, and this is what I took home as my salary, and it's like, okay.
What I do really like too is the people that go on Shark Tank that aren't serious about making a deal. I've seen people literally say, because they're on there to get an investor, and they ask them something simple like, "What are your margins?" And they say like, "We don't want to say that on like air." On TV, I've seen that. Like, that's purely they don't want their customers that they're advertising to know, hey, dude, we make this for $1 and we sell it for 20. They don't want that known. So I've literally seen that, like, because people that are trying to get a deal, you're always saying up front, these are our margins, because they want to know before they invest. And I've seen people be like, we don't want to say that on air. And the sharks are like, what the I have no data. I've got nothing to go on.
So you just want blind money?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
There's things that you need to learn prior. I'm just a learn by doing type of guy, and I took that risk knowing full well that I was going to be doing a lot of learning. It's just the way I learn best is learning by doing. So
now, if you could keep, for example, that you learn best by doing, but magically fingers are snapped and you've restarted, would you try to force yourself to proactively learn ahead of time, or would you do it?
I think the only thing I would do differently is to maybe do a little bit more feeling of the type of person people are before getting in, because there was very big telltale signs of the type of people that were running the company at the time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of those people skills
you learn. You learn. You can't read a book and learn that. It's unfortunate.
You learn people by dealing with people.
I mean, you can read some books to help you, but you're not gonna actually learn and refine your skills by reading. You can read 48 Laws of Power. You can read Laws of Human Nature. These different books. 33 Strategies of War is another really good one, all by Robert Greene. But at the end of the day, it's helpful. It gets you in a good state of mind to see things. But you're not going to refine any of those strategies he lists in any of those books without actually practicing it. Yeah. So that's a big thing. Another thing I would do as well is I would not be afraid to take my time in purchasing something. Never feel like you're pressured if you're purchasing a company. If the person's trying to pressure you to buy the company that they're selling, there's probably something going on there.
Yeah.
And never feel bad if you're going to offend somebody by deciding to walk away or deciding to be like, hey, it ain't worth this price. Like, you got to be able to tell the person straight up and be like, no. You got to be like,
I'm
no,
not paying that.
I'm not paying this. I don't want to buy the company. I don't like it. I'm not doing it.
Right on.
If they get offended and upset, that's on them, not on you. You're the buyer. They're the seller. They got to sell it to you effectively.
Exactly. And vice versa. If you're trying to sell something, and you think it's worth more and they're not willing to buy it.
You got to show them why it's worth more. You can't just say it is worth more. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I was going to buy, there was something I was going to buy. Well, I'm trying to remember what it was. They wouldn't budge on the price. Do you remember this a year ago? There was a building I was looking at buying. Yeah, the building I was looking at buying. Not the laundromat. It was a different building that could have been turned into a rental/storage unit type of thing for like rentals upstairs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This guy, he told me on the phone, he's like, because I'd called him, I was like, hey, I want to take a look at your building. I see it's for sale. I drive past it every day. It looks pretty nice. Let's take a look at it. He's like, yeah, I'm asking $105,000. I'll take and show it to you. I'll have my niece drive up because he was older. So he had his niece drive up. We looked at it, my dad and I, because it was going to be another venture of my dad and I doing some business together. And I was like, yeah, this looks pretty good. And my dad and I decided on the price. We did everything the right way. We went and got pre-approved, and we got everything lined up at the bank. Like we did the, what do you want to call it? The good faith, starting. We made sure like I said, pre-approved, talked to the bank, made sure we were actually able to get the loan for this. I talked to my mentor about, hey, I know you know this building because you grew up here. What can you tell me about it? It used to be a gas station. He's like, yeah, make sure, it's not a brown water site. Like, really get all these things taken care of. And so I offered him it. I explained to the guy, I was like, hey, there's these issues. I looked at it, but I think it's worth $85,000. Obviously, that's a pretty low ball offer. I expected to settle somewhere between $90,000 to $95,000, maybe a little bit higher. And he goes, absolutely not. And he goes, the lowest I would take is $116,000 for it. And I kid you not, there was about 30 seconds of really weird silence on the phone because I was just blown back by the fact fact that he wanted 105 and now he wants 116. And then he goes, well, if you think about it, 116 is a really good price because I wanted 125 to start out with. And I told him right away on the phone, I was like, you told me 105,000 on the phone literally 3 days ago. This isn't gonna work.
Right.
I was respectful, I said, hey, you can't just surprise jump the price up tens of thousands of dollars and expect somebody not to be like, what the heck,
Right.
So,
for sure.
And then even I know, because he had some other people trying to buy it too, and he goes, well, there's somebody else coming to look at it, so, you might want to put in some kind of reasonable offer,
pressure.
and I go, that's fine, that's just too much for what it is. And literally, not a day later, he messaged me. He goes, if you think about it, 116,000 is a really good idea, because the guy that came and looked at it, I have a very strong feeling, said the same thing to him, that you're asking too much. So he was trying to get me to buy it by sending another text being like, hey man, just think about it. But it's like, no.
Nope.
You got to know when to step away.
True. Well said. Next thing I want to talk about was politics, local politics.
Yes.
Getting involved in. How did this all start?
So, let's see. How did it start?
Yeah.
First, I got in a subcommittee first because it was of the type of business that we're in. There was a subcommittee dedicated towards it, and there was an opening. And I was like, hey, can I get on the subcommittee to help, build out the coming season and help make decisions, because there's a lot of really important things that I think could be changed and done. And they were like, yeah, sure. And then I thought about it more because they had an open position on the DDA. And the person that ran this subcommittee was also the head of the DDA. And I explained to her all my visions. I took and was like, hey, this is what I think the community could be. There's so much opportunity that we're not taking advantage of. I have different ideas. I'd love to take and, be on the board if that's something that you think would be a good fit. And she goes, I think it's a really good idea. She brought it up to the city commission, and I was approved. But prior to all of this, I actually went and sat in on roughly 1 or 2 or 3 DDA meetings, you know, and you'd be very interested and surprised to hear, maybe not, that I was the only member of the public that went to these meetings. This meeting that they have every single third Tuesday of the month or whatever it is, maybe it's a second, I can't remember entirely, but I know it's whatever. I actually have a meeting coming up tomorrow. That's a DDA meeting in the morning. They have open to the public. Anybody can come in and watch these things. Nobody goes. So what I did is, at the end of the first meeting, I went around, shook every single board member's hand on that board, and I introduced myself, said, hey, you know, I'm looking on getting on the board here. I think it's really interesting. I really want to help contribute to the community. You know, I really, you know, not sold myself, but explained like what my visions were, and you know, nice handshakes, everything. You gotta familiarize yourself with the people, and really, you gotta put yourself out there. And it made a very standing impression, because I rewatched the city commission video because I couldn't get to the actual commission in person because it was late during the day, so I just couldn't make it. But I listened to it on YouTube, and they had nothing but good things to say about me. They loved how I, you know, introduced myself, presented myself, and they're like, we can't imagine a better fit. So I got on the board.
Very nice.
And then, you know, never be afraid to take opportunities. They had a bunch of subcommittees that needed a spot, and I volunteered for almost all of them. You know, the Prosperity and Development Subcommittee was one of them, and then another one was the Business Development Subcommittee.
You think
Prosperity and Vision Subcommittee and Business Development Subcommittee. Yes.
Gotcha. Do you think local politics affect people inherently more than federal or geopolitics, or how do you think that stacks up?
Geopolitics are interesting to follow, but what's happening in Iran doesn't really affect what's happening to you and I in our little town.
Maybe not as much as what the DDA just did, or
or you know, maybe the DDA rose your tax rates for your property if you live in the downtown districts, or maybe like all these different things, like your ordinances for blight or whatever it could be, are way more effective towards you than a lot of federal policy as well. Like, you know, federal policy gets a lot of, what do you want to call it, media attention, you know, and not all of it's really, I mean, technically it affects everybody, but the degree of effectiveness, generally speaking, isn't as much as your local city, county, state laws and regulations and politics, really.
Right, because usually, I mean, to be honest, you know, people vote in November. They really only know
they vote for the president, but, you know, you see midterms come up and it's like really low voter turnout in a lot of states, and it's then everybody hates your representative. Well, why do you hate your representative? Because nobody voted.
Right.
You know, the people that maybe weren't best for the job still won because nobody took the time to research. And, you know, people will make the argument, well, I don't have time with my busy day of whatever their work and home life is, but it's like, it takes 5 minutes before you go to bed at night to research a little bit about your political
what are the things they want to do? What are they campaigning on?
Yeah. Exactly.
You know. Yeah.
It's a big thing. I mean, if you really want more prosperity and more growth, I guess, and better development in your city or your county or your local municipality, I mean, you got to get involved. I mean, that's the only way. You got to talk to your representatives. You got to let them know what you want.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Do we touch on your politics?
Well, in what sense?
What do you identify as in politics?
I guess I used to like to call myself a libertarian, but libertarians get a lot of flack. I mean, there's a lot of crazies in the Libertarian Party that are like almost anarcho, like libertarians, right? You know, that's like what everybody knows about libertarians, is like they're not jobs that want no laws, no regulations, and all drugs to be legalized and no taxes. Like, that's like the thing that everybody knows them for. And that's not at all what I stood for. So I guess I hesitantly still say libertarian, but I really truly am an independent, because moderate independent, because there's a lot of social policies I agree with on the liberal side, and there's a lot of different economic policies I agree with on the conservative side. You know,
I've heard people, what's really common, like Stephen A. Smith has said, a lot of people identify, like, they say that they're socially liberal, fiscally conservative. is what a lot of people say.
Yeah, but a lot of people probably don't practice that.
Yeah.
You know, you hear people talk about the big corporations being these terrible monsters, but at the end of the day, you know, I might get some comments on this on your video by saying that they're not, but at the end of the day, I strongly believe this, and this is a real thing. So businesses are legally an individual entity, especially when they're an LLC or a corporation. Especially when they're a corporation, they're literally their own separate legal individual. Legal individuals only operate in the environment they're given. So, you know, you operate in your environment that you're given based on the laws and standards and cultures of where we live. You know, you're not going to go out and wear a different type of thing or break a law that's legal. It's the same as these big corporations. They're only going to do what they're allowed to do in most cases.
Here's the caveat.
Loopholes, all these different regulations that they can skirt around. If you truly want that closed, you know, talk to your elected officials. Talk to these people. Close the loop. Close the regulatory pitfalls. If you want something changed, you can't expect the corporation to do it. You have to have the government, which this sounds weird being pro-business, you have to have the government regulate because there is some regulation required.
No, that's true. Here's the W-2 perspective. Here's the caveat. What do corporations do for politicians?
There is lobbying.
Yeah! There's money in politics.
There is money in politics. There is.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, there is a lot of different ways you can skirt around that too.
Well,
what about get loopholes and regulatory pitfalls closed? You know, at the beginning,
we need money out of politics.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's never going to happen.
I think anybody can agree on that unless you're truly just, I don't want to say inept, but you truly don't understand the political landscape.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. I think everybody would agree with that.
Yeah,
money out of politics would probably be better.
Yeah, I could see it. But yeah, at the end of the day, still, a corporation is only going to do the bare minimum of what the laws require. So if you want more stringent rules, increase regulation.
Which, here's the thing, is I think like,
and some regulation's good, I said.
Well, listen, I think if you ask most people, they would expect, and they would probably be fine with either an individual, corporation, whatever, doing what's minimally required by law.
Well,
the problem is who's deciding what the law is. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because if the corporation is like, well, we're abiding to the law. We lobbied the dude that voted for the law to get the law the way that we wanted it.
No, that is a good argument. I'm not gonna disagree.
You're over
with
here
that.
playing checkers, we're playing chess, but you know, we stayed in line.
Yeah, I definitely I can see your
that's
point
where
of
there's
view
people
there.
like, well, fuck.
Yeah, I can see your point of view there, but at the end of the day, still, it's I keep harping on this, but it's a thing, and there are different ways you can change it. Like, for example, you know, the big oil companies back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you know, acid rains were a big thing, tar-covered roads, you know, from all the soot and crap. I mean, people finally were like, I don't want my child playing in oil rain or sulfuric rain that's going to, like, rust out my cars or whatever, carcinogenic crap, right? We pushed for more stringent greenhouse gas emissions and cleanliness standards to protect our environment. That is arguably a really strong, really good thing because, yes, capitalism is our best, you know, system that we have currently. That there is no better system. I don't care what anybody says. It might be a very unpopular thing again to say, especially in today's political landscape. But if you look at any other type of economic policy, there has been no other bigger driver of wealth and bigger driver of quality of life improvements than capitalism has. But that doesn't mean there's issues, right? You know, to lax regulations, you get oil companies polluting and destroying rivers and ecosystems, or you get meat packaging factories. This is a really fun story. Meat packaging factories having really, really low quality assurance things and having parts of people losing fingers back in the day or getting sick back before the FDA was created. There's these so many different regulatory bodies that are important, and that's what makes capitalism great because you can control it. You can make sure that there are safety standards. You just got to have the willingness to implement them.
Right. And ultimately, the politicians got to vote for it.
Yeah. Which, again, money in politics is an issue, but that probably isn't going to go anywhere. So there has to be different ways of pressuring, you know, your elected officials. If you make it a really big hot button issue, they won't care
That's
how
true.
much money they get,
they still
because
need their
if they
votes.
lose the election, that money that they got isn't going to come back next year.
No,
So
absolutely
you know,
not.
you gotta find ways around it.
You do got to vote, guys. There is a lot of there's a lot of doomer stuff in terms of I'm not going to vote. There's no point.
Yeah.
The only option's revolution, and I'm just
That's kind of ridiculous.
yeah, no, you can still vote. We'll see if if Homeboy decides to seize election machines or whatever. He says he
Might
wants
be unpopular to say, but it's a very divisive topic. But I would hope everybody would see an issue with that.
Yeah, I would hope so too.
I would hope so. Despite anybody's politics, like him or hate him, everybody does good things. Everybody does bad things. Good policies, bad policies. It's just whether or not, they uphold certain institutions that are probably important, I think is more important.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Because
we'll see.
I
mean, to be honest with you, everybody, we live in a time where everyone on the left and right feels like the other side is about to go that authoritarian route.
Well, but they're more close than they really realize.
Yeah,
they really are. Unless you're somebody super far left or right, Fuentes or something
yeah, you're way out there.
You're way out there, and you're just man, there's only one good. Yeah.
We need a king.
Yeah,
what's a king?
Yeah, that's not healthy either.
No, but
you want to get into politics yourself in your local wherever you live. If you have that ambition, definitely shake hands, introduce yourself to people, show your ambition. That's probably my best advice.
Yeah, bringing it all the way back.
Yeah,
local politics, and then you work your way up the chain.
Yeah,
one step at a time.
I can see myself maybe one day being some kind of, my girlfriend doesn't want me going to federal politics. We kind of come to a compromise that no federal politics, but I can do governor if I make it that far, or state representative in legislature. But she wouldn't want to be federal government because that's too many eyes, and she likes more of a private lifestyle. So yeah. So we came to an agreement. She's like, I still want you to be able to do, what you want to do, but maybe let's not do federal if you make it that far.
Yeah.
So, but I can definitely see myself being state legislature one day, I think. I could see it being a good
governor.
Fit. Yeah.
Governor.
Maybe. I could see it being a very good fit for what I like to do, my ambition and whatnot,
Yeah.
Just my whole MO, I guess. That's just, I enjoy that type of stuff.
Yeah. Writing laws.
Yeah. I think it would be very interesting to help write the laws of our state and really
campaign.
Yeah. Talk to people, get them fired up. Yeah.
Either for or against you.
Yeah. One way or another, you're going to like me or you're going to hate me.
Yeah.
As long as more like me than hate me.
Yeah, yeah. 51%.
51% is all it takes.
Yeah.
With a small margin of error.
No, we have good margins.
50.9.
Yeah. Your Honor.
2 week counts.
Yeah.
One was 50.8, one was 51.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the next topic you wanted to talk about was ownership.
Yes.
Specifically business ownership.
Yeah, when you want to get into ownership, especially in your 20s and 30s, again, I started a little earlier than I think probably most people do when it comes to business ownership and that type of thing. You want to start by building substantial cash reserves while seeking certain opportunities, always be looking. Like what I like to do even now still, I like to look at not classifieds, but it's the commercial section of a lot of local real estate agencies to see, hey, what's for sale? What would be a good buy? That's how I found some other properties I was looking at buying, And sometimes you'll find some cool stuff, there's this one that had a gun range in the basement, which was kind of interesting, because it's I can shoot my guns in my basement if I buy this building. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
You always want to be prepared for opportunities that can appear out of nowhere. They'll always appear when you seemingly least expect it. It might be like, hey, I have a friend of a friend that's looking for a buyer of this really strong cash flowing business, or you might see it randomly posted online on Facebook or something, because that literally just happened, I want to say maybe 3-4 months ago, there was one of our local bars that is a really successful local bar went for sale on Facebook, and it was off the market within a week because it was a Facebook post they made. Somebody just ran across it and was like,
Here in town?
holy crap, yeah.
I think I know which one it is.
Yep. And they're like, holy crap, this is a strong cash flowing, one of the most popular bars in town. I'm buying this thing. It's like, you'll never know where an opportunity will show up, so you always have to be ready if you're wanting ownership. You know, you want to increase your exposure to potential ownership through networking actively. So you can do this going to different DDA meetings, county commission meetings. A lot of business owners go to commission meetings, especially, county commission meetings. Those are really big. Or maybe Chamber of Commerce days that are offered at your local area, another big place that business owners will go to. A lot of different places. You just got to think. You got to think.
Yep.
And then again, if you're employed at a small or mid-sized company, you can take the initiative to move up by volunteering for extra work and learning new skills that benefit the business. That kind of goes in to what we talked about before. Make yourself indispensable. Eventually, maybe you can work up enough to really be offered an owner position. I know of a lot of really small businesses, especially in our local area, that have had people start at the bottom and they become a member of the board or a part owner just through hard work and determination. You're more likely to get that with mom and pop businesses and American small businesses as a whole, not, mega corporations, obviously. There are some people that work up through that. You can read about some CEOs of these massively public traded companies that started as like a chemical salesman and now they're CEO of Dow Chemical or whatever,
Right.
Yeah. And then another thing you want to remember too, ownership is earned. It's not given. You've got to be ready to work harder than everybody else to achieve it. You really do. There's no excuse for if you want ownership and you can't get it. There's no excuse other than the fact that you probably didn't work hard enough. And I know that's going to be probably a little bit also controversial, but it's true. Ownership is 100% earned. You're never going to be given it unless you're one of the lucky few that inherit it from like your rich family or something. You have to really put your ass on the line. You gotta just grit and just hard work. You're gonna be working more than 40 hours if you want to be an owner.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I don't know any business owners that were doing just 40 hours a week.
Yeah, you're not gonna punch your time card and all right, get my cup of coffee so that my desk start my day. It's gonna be your day started when you woke up. You're gonna be doing something with work when you wake up.
The idea is that you get it successful enough to one day that you
eventually
don't even have to
hire an operator. Yeah.
Then you're living the dream.
Yeah, but everything takes time, and to get there, especially initially achieving that ownership position, you're going to be working 3 times harder than everybody else. And if you think you're working hard enough, you're probably not. You got to work a little harder.
Yeah, that's probably true.
How much sleep can you sacrifice and still function? Is what I used to like to tell myself. And you want to keep your end goal in mind, and always think about short-term gratification or long-term gratification. And think about how sweet it will feel to reach that end goal. That's what kept me running at the start.
Deep down.
Yep, you got to internalize it. Think about that. That's the only thing you want. Internalize it in your core.
Okay.
Yeah.
Da Vinci over here.
No, you do. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I believe you.
Because there's going to be tough days. There's going to be days where you don't want to get out of bed. There's going to be days where you just plain do not want to do anything. You don't want to do that work. It sucks. You hate your life, but you just keep going, and it gets better and better and better.
That even applies to just, regular people in their jobs too. Because there's going to be days where you're like, damn, dude, I do not want to go into work.
Yeah.
But, keep her going.
And if you're motivated for that paycheck, it's just like, man, imagine that sweet paycheck at the end of the day. That's another one too. I know a lot of people work for, the paychecks and stuff. Every extra hour you work is an extra hour on that paycheck.
You get to invest it.
Yep. Any extra dollar earned, you can throw into some stocks, or, if you don't want to actively manage your SPY, your VOO, or your SEHD.
The overall lesson, you want to work hard when you're younger. Yep. Save and invest that money so that it's working for you, so that at reasonable time, the money does the work for you.
Yeah. Always want your money to work for you, not for your money.
Right.
Work as hard as you can while you're young, and you can sacrifice sleep. Not when you're 50 and 10 years away or 15 years away from retirement. And you're like, well, crap, I got to work this many extra hours so I can actually afford my retirement on the bare minimum.
And I think most people would like that in terms of, too, making, not that you wouldn't work, but making work an option, not a requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're always going to have your workaholics, probably like me, that I don't know if I would be able to not do some kind of work ever.
You can be like, I want to do 20 hours a week.
Yeah. Something like that, but I've just gotten used to the 80 or whatever, 80 plus,
Yeah, just don't sleep.
Some crazy number, yeah.
One of the last topics you want to talk about, you said this one's going to get spicy. I haven't even seen it.
This was one of your topics you sent to me.
What's it titled? You guys
Stress, burnout, and responsibility at the top. My notes on this thing, I'm pretty sure go front and back. If not, take up a whole page.
Okay, so fair warning, guys. If you're sensitive, click off now.
Yeah.
And I might disagree, again, because we're getting two different perspectives. So this is, again, titled Stress, Burnout, and Responsibility at the top.
I really focused hard on stress and burnout because it's something I definitely have experienced. It's one of those really big things that I have probably felt the most out of all of these topics here.
Not even just mentally, but physically.
Yeah. They both go hand in hand. Stress and burnout often go hand in hand. Stress can easily lead to burnout if it's not actively managed. I mean, especially when you're going, 16-hour work days is a lot of some of my days in the summer. I mean, I get up, I go outside, or I go to work or whatever, and I don't get home until it's dark. I get up with the sun and I get home when it's midnight, or whatever. I work until I can't, And the ability to handle stress is huge, A personal example, I handle stress really, really, really good outwardly. Like, you can probably attest, you can see me thick of the earnings season, thick of, like, the busiest time, and I look decently normal, aside from probably wrecked out about being tired. But I don't seem, like, on edge. I don't seem like, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
The stress, I'm really able to internalize stress, although it does manifest to everybody a little bit differently. For me, I have different copes that happen when I sleep. I stress grind my teeth really bad, like to the point where my girlfriend had to wake me up to have me knock it off.
Yeah.
Like clench and stuff. I have to go to the dentist for different like things sometimes because my jaw gets to the point where it hurts and I can't chew. You
ever wear a mouth guard when you sleep?
I am supposed to. I'm a little cheap, I guess, and I don't want to spend the $800 on a mouth guard. So I just kind of deal with it right now. So I leave it to me. I make decent money, and I still don't want to spend something like that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
For other people, it could manifest in irritability, fatigue, or you could even feel detached from family members or friends, emotionless. That's another really big one. That's when it's a telltale sign. Maybe I need to take a little bit of a break.
Emotionless.
Yeah. I know sometimes I've felt emotionless in the past where it's like I just feel nothing because I'm just working all the time, which you just get into a groove, right? You get into a thing where I wake up, I work, I go to bed. I wake up, I work, I go to bed. It's not necessarily always a bad feeling. It can be an issue if you have like a relationship, like a girlfriend or a wife. They'll be like, hey, you're not really acting like you used to. And then you just kind of got to readjust and realize that, hey, maybe I am a little stressed. What can I do to mitigate this stress? Self-awareness is huge. It's the most crucial thing you could possibly have when you're under high stress loads, high working conditions, You want to recognize where and how stress appears in your life, and you want to figure out ways to maintain that successful approach that you've been taking. You've been making great strides. You got to remember that everybody needs a break once in a while. Even myself, I take a break once in a while. I know you want to take off as much time, even if it's just an evening away from work, which can really help. Do something enjoyable to clear your mind, whether it's socializing, gaming, or spending time with family. Even if it's, like I said, 30 minutes or maybe an hour. Maybe it's 5 minutes. Whatever you can reasonably give yourself time for if you're feeling that burnout, it can do wonders to when you want to start working again.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you got to keep some kind of, structure. You can't just be like, I'm going to take a break and then just not do anything for a long time. You got to be like, set a timer or something that keeps you on track, but you'd be surprised, even the smallest amount of time. Like when you and I, when you used to live where I used to work, we'd go and get lunch on the afternoons after my work was done.
Yeah.
It was really nice. We'd grab a couple drinks, we'd get some dinner, and then I'd go home and I'd feel great for the next week. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be this big, long thing. It can be just an afternoon.
Yeah.
I know for myself personally, since it's pretty slow in December, January, I don't completely stop working, obviously.
No.
I still did a decent amount of work, but I took a pretty laid back position this year and every year through December, January, about a month and a half. I'd take some extra time in the morning having my coffee, or play a couple extra games with my friends. Go to a couple more extra movies or dinner dates with the girlfriend. Play a couple board games with the family more often. It happens to coalesce around Christmas time, so it's nice. You get to have that more family exposure anyway. Plus, you take a laid-back position from work for a while, just because it's slower. It does wonders resetting you for the coming year,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So, that's a really good way to help do it as well. If break isn't possible, if you're not able to take a break, push through burnout by focusing on your goals. You can use headphones, listening to different podcasts you find enjoyable, maybe some different music that you really like, and just remind yourself of that feeling is temporary and the reward for reaching your goal is worth the effort you're putting in.
I can tell this is like your survival list
Yeah.
that like you went through.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming there are times where like you were on the brink.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there's been, especially in the fall when I'm working at the warehouse and I'm the only one there, you can hear the wind make the warehouse creak or whatever, and you're working your ass off, and it's like, man, I wish I could just be asleep right now.
Right.
After you drink your second or third energy drink of the day, it's like, these things taste like crap.
Yeah.
After a certain time, and it's like, I hate this, and then you just gotta sit down, stop yourself, and think. A couple more weeks of this, it's gonna be over before I know it. The extra X amount of $1,000 I make in this, 1 month time frame, 2 month time frame, or I think it was 2.5 months this year, because I started working earlier than I normally do, because I just wanted extra, more money to throw into stocks and investments. And you gotta sit down, you gotta tell yourself, it will all be worth it in the end. You just gotta keep going, So, and then we can touch a little bit on responsibility. I want to say responsibility at the top, it does increase. You'll have more daily tasks, and you may need to make more key decisions about company direction and deals. So a lot of people think of well, he's an owner, it's got to be so easy, right? It's like he makes all the money, he's relaxing, it's like whatever. But really, being an owner, there is a lot of work that people don't see behind the scenes. If you have employees, every decision you make affects them, because if it's a failed decision, then if the company, let's say, goes bankrupt or something, they no longer have a job. They rely on you for their living.
Or you lose money and then you cut their wages.
Yeah,
kind of
or
thing.
Layoffs or whatever too. You are constantly weighing every single decision. You're taking on all that risk. It's a high stress, high stakes situation in many cases.
Yeah.
Especially if you're closing deals or sales deals or whatever, you're trying to get the best possible price, and so is your adversary.
Yep.
So you're both like, well, this is my final offer, but is it really your final offer? I have no idea. Just like they're asking the same question to me. Is that really his final offer? I have no idea. I got to figure something out here because I don't want to lose this deal.
Yeah.
So I responsibility gets greater. It changes as well. You get more responsibility, and it becomes a little bit more serious. If you're somebody that's working the cash register, your responsibility is to don't get robbed.
Yeah.
If somebody comes in, make sure the till's right, and make sure to show up and work on time. That's pretty much it. Maybe you have a couple other things. I'm just giving some examples,
Yeah.
But that's not all that hard of responsibilities. At least I wouldn't think so. But then, somebody at the top, it's like, I got to make sure that this decision doesn't put the company in a disadvantaged position. So,
Right.
And I even wrote on here as well, in small businesses especially, leaders often wear multiple hats. I mean, I know I do myself. I wear a top-down management hat, and customer relations to even sales or grunt work. All your little hats that you wear, your management hats. That's what my business professor used to say as well.
Yeah.
That managers wear multiple different hats. Some days you're in sales. Some days you're in customer relations, trying to settle down some kind of argument between an employee
True.
and a customer. Even if the customer is in the wrong, you still kind of got to be like, I understand what you're saying.
Customer's
Relax,
always right.
you know?
Customer's always right.
Yeah, you got to just continue to tell yourself that, even if it would feel good to be like, you know what? It's just like, no, you know, their experience will drive more people if you just, even if you have to just say like, hey, you know what? I was wrong. Next time we'll do better. Even if you don't have to give any successions, just a nice admission of guilt and an apology will go a long way. Like, they'll respect you to the ends of time. It's crazy, some of the things you see. I worked customer relations. I still do sometimes for the family business, and it is really crazy if you just acknowledge, even if it's the like worst thing you've ever heard, if they're being the worst type of person, like so mean and terrible, if you just acknowledge it and be like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I was wrong. You know, we can try to do it better next time. They're one of your most loyal customers in like a week. It's the weirdest thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you just got to give them a little bit of like, I hear you, you know?
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah. And then another thing I wrote here is, as echoed by business professors, small business owners frequently juggle many roles to keep their company running smoothly, which is what I do on a daily basis, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to read that one word for word because I think that one was very important.
Yeah. But to be honest with you, this topic, I don't think it's very controversial. You know, I think it's a good one.
The stress in working, even when you don't want to, could be controversial because it ties with work ethic. You know, like, yeah. I think you gotta want it.
Yeah, and you're talking specifically when you're coming at it, obviously, from a business owner.
Yeah, you've gotta want it. You know, you've gotta take your work ethic matters, and if you're not succeeding, sometimes it might not feel like it's your work ethic, but in most cases, it probably is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you fail, you got to try over and over again. If somebody picked up a new game like chess and they lost their first game and they go, you know what? I hate this game. I'm never playing again. You're never going to win then. I mean, you've got to, if you fail, you try again. And even some people might get it on their third attempt. Some people might get it on their 50th attempt. It just depends where you are on that spectrum of how many times you have to fail before you succeed. Take every failure as a learning situation, like, you know,
learning experience.
Yeah, it's a learning situation.
I mean, and that's why I created my black pill video, because mainly, again, the point of the video was not to say that like people don't have difficulties or valid complaints. I was just encouraging people, don't quit. Essentially, don't like quit.
The problem with
people fail like once and then they quit.
Yeah,
you know,
even if they fail 10 times, you still can't quit. I mean. And another problem with black pill too is if you're saying this is just, you just can't see reality, this is what the real world is, it's really not. It's just because you're having a negative view of things. I don't want to say I'm fully white pill either, but I am very optimistic about a lot of future endeavors of our generation and of, I guess, our country as a whole. But it does a disservice when everybody thinks that we're just crashing and burning, because we're really not, right? I mean, quality of life has tended to be on an upward trend, even if it doesn't feel like it, since the 1950s, since the 1940s. You know, today it's harder, but I think it was probably hard all the time. People think it's harder. It probably is just as hard as it always has been. So, I mean...
What do you mean? What's harder? Specifically,
just life in general. Like, life has never been easy. It's never been meant to be easy.
No, I would say life was harder for, like, I mean, you had the silent generation that lived through the Great Depression.
Well,
if you're gonna say life is harder than that, that's bull.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying life is just always hard in every generation. Every generation feels life is hard. That never changes.
No,
but you never see people in the past go, sucks, no reason to try. Like, that's just laughable.
You just kept on going. Although, you know, I guess I wasn't alive back then. Maybe you had a lot of people where it was underreported and there were a lot of deletions. I have no idea. You know, that's ultimately the thing that I want to prevent, because people do it, man. I mean, like, you'll read on Reddit, people are like, I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm
which,
like, damn.
It's not silly in a funny sense. It's silly in a practical sense, because nothing is really ever truly that bad. You can always get help. You know what I mean? You can always call, talk to somebody. You know, they have that line for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what's going through somebody's head. Maybe they feel like they can't.
Maybe.
For some reason. I have to imagine they feel like there's no escape.
It's got to be hard. I'm not discrediting it. It's just, I would always hope everybody would take every possible avenue before that.
Yeah. And again, you never know when you're looking at it from external perspective, from an internal. Do they, again, maybe from their perspective, they just don't feel like, and financially, economically, geopolitically, whatever, they might just feel like there is like no options, and I do think there truly is at all points that there's something you can do, and I think people should strive to, obviously.
Well, never worry to seek for help, never feel embarrassed of asking for help.
Yeah,
especially at something like that,
That's a positive thing that's come around.
Seeing a therapist is not a bad thing if you need one. That's not something to be like. I mean, at the same time, you don't need to shouldn't feel like you have to announce it to the world that you're seeing a therapist, but if you want to seek help from one, you shouldn't be like, I can't, because what will that look like?
Friends are a big thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Friends are big too.
That's basically like free therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you can trust them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, yo, dude, guess what so-and-so told me? Oh, going on Facebook.
Yeah.
No. Friends are huge. And I do think that's social media.
Good and bad.
It's caused a lot of, you'd say, like, personal isolationism. And then people have lost friends. I think all these things compound, to be honest. Yeah. So not just economically,
but at the same time, I remember one of the guys in our graduating class. I overheard him talking. We weren't in the same class, but he was talking about. I feel like we're one of the last generations, or we're the first generation that will never truly lose all of their friends from high school because everybody has social media now. We can always snap each other. We can always text each other.
It's not the same.
It's not the same, but I mean, I don't know. I still talk to my best friend from my old school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's for sure. But I do think I think it's inherently in our DNA to have in-person human interaction.
I think it's important, yes.
Yeah.
But you can still maintain some kind of relationship like that. Might not be as close as, being in the same room with somebody, but...
Right. But, it's hard, man. But do you think going forward, Gen Z gets into power? Do you think we have a positive impact on the future of the country?
I would hope so. You see,
right, but you said you're optimistic for the future.
I am. I think you see a lot of people, though, at the same time, being a more pragmatist. I see a lot of comments online everywhere of Gen Z kind of more or less, and I want to say blaming everybody for things, because that's not the right, saying, but there's a lot of excuses. There's a lot of, like, I worked hard but didn't get anywhere. A lot of this stuff, and a lot of almost like, not anger, but kind of like, almost like an anger type of, like, feeling of, like, we're getting screwed over by big corporations, we're getting screwed over by the government, we're getting screwed over by all these people. I think it's just something that has to be worked around. You have to understand the way that systems work, and that there's always a way to succeed in every system.
Yeah, I would agree with, like I said,
my biggest worry, I guess, with our generation is when they do get into power, do get into politics or something, that they take and internalize that type of thought process and try to, make the quote-unquote payback or the changes based on that internal feeling that might not necessarily be true once they get into office through different laws and regulations.
True, and I mean, usually people get into positions of power and they get corrupted.
Yeah.
So then maybe you go from, I hated the big corporations, now I love them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility too. But it depends on the ones you love, though, too, right?
There's a lot of politicians that get into politics, and then when they're first getting in, they're young and they're vibrant, and we're gonna make all this change, and it goes away. Because I'm telling you, those lobby paychecks.
Thank you for $1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
You bought my wife a Rolls Royce.
Yeah. Oh, you don't want that. Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, I mean, that's a possibility, too.
It's called a pivot. That's what it is. As simple as that.
Yeah. But no, overall in all, I am very positively outlooked when it comes to our future prospects for our generation. I just think we got a little bit of learning.
What do you think? What do you think our generation's strong at?
That's a good question.
Compared to old generations,
I think we're stronger at. I want to say calling out bullshit. I think, I think a lot.
That's a fact.
I think a lot of older generations, millennials, kind of started that train. I think, but a lot of older generations, Gen X, Boomers, I think they just kind of were like complacent to a degree. They were like,
or
whatever.
Stop complaining.
Stop complaining, complacent. They never really were like, well, there's no reason to fight the system, whatever.
We live in the greatest country ever.
Yeah. I think nowadays, our generation's strongest suit is the ability to call out a lot of bullshit, but we got to be able to direct that. We can't just look at everything and be like, bullshit's everywhere.
Yeah,
everything's bullshit. You gotta really
and vote.
You gotta vote. You gotta really hone in that ability to call out stuff and be like, this is a really big problem. We should focus on this.
And debate more.
Yeah.
Respectfully debate more.
Yeah. Don't be like people in comment sections that name call and laughing emojis with pointing fingers about your thought process.
Yeah.
You gotta take, and if it's a political discussion and debate, be respectful to the other side, because at the end of the day, they are still your countrymen, and they are still most likely a little bit closer to your ideology than you probably think they are.
Very well said. Very well said.
Take a little spectrum and you look where the political right and the political left sit on, and then you look at the whole spectrum of socialism and communism and fascism. It's like, oh, look at, they're both close to the middle.
Yeah, it's not that crazy.
So, yeah. It's just, they word it differently, and I don't like that.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So
I think most people would agree on most things. Mm-hmm. And there's just a few things that divide us, and ultimately I think
word it slightly different, and then it's like, I don't like how you said that.
Pretty much,
we want the same thing, though.
Pretty much.
Just say it my way, and we're good.
Okay. Yeah. Bet. All right, well, we hit 2 hours and 15 minutes.
That's a pretty good one.
I feel like that's pretty good.
One last example, you and I in high school.
Okay.
Our political positions.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. We want to talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, in high school, you guys want to talk about, 180 swaps, bro.
Both of us.
Yeah. Basically, in high school, you were a big conservative.
Very big
Trump.
Big conservative guy. I was very big into that section. And my buddy here, he was the exact polar opposite to a T.
I was super liberal.
He was super liberal, but yet we were super close friends. And in the back of our history class,
it was fun, dude.
We would argue the entire class, and the instructor would be like, "What are you guys talking about now?"
Yeah, dude, it was fun. It was awesome.
And we would have to write these research articles, and I would purposely create this article because you would have to talk about it with a neighbor, and I would purposely pull some kind of stupid article from InfoWars just to piss him off.
Yeah, of course you would.
And argue the point, and
Alex
you'd be like,
Jones.
"How can you believe this garbage?"
Yeah, and be like, "Cause it's true."
And you'd be just
duh. Yeah, they'd have to pull up CNN.
But
the worst of the worst.
As time went on, it was funny because he went more right and I went more left, and now we're pretty similar. But the whole moral of why I brought this up is I want to explain and show that just because somebody has a different political opinion from you, even if it's drastically different like ours was, you can still be really good, really close friends. I mean,
dude, that's a fact.
Politics shouldn't always be the deciding factor, in friendships and relationships. Now, obviously, if you have a friend that's like, yeah, I'm a racist, I mean, that's a little different. But
openly, yeah, of course. Yeah, then you get to some extremes, but oh no, that's a fact. We became close friends when our politics were the most divided.
Yeah,
by far.
And we would argue about it all the time.
All the freaking time.
Yeah. On Snapchat, in school, in person.
Oh yeah, all the freaking time. And then both graduated high school, and all of a sudden it's like, no, I'm actually shifting more left. It's like, oh crap, really? I'm shifting more right. It's like, what the hell is going on here?
It used to be more not anti-gun, but really a lot bigger. I don't know about.
No, I was kind of anti-gun.
Yeah.
And now I own several AR-15s.
And I guess that never changed with me, but I think there's a little bit more red flag laws that can probably be implemented for safety features. Not that it really matters, I guess, because, you know, if you want to get a gun illegally, you can probably still get one.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't help that a lot of these, like, kids that, like, start shooting in schools, they, like, post online that they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And people know that they're sus.
Yeah, so, like, that in that sense, it's a really big help there. But, like, I guess if I was a criminal, right, and I wanted to go rob a store, I probably wouldn't go to my local gun shop and be like, hey, you know what a really good caliber is for this?
Yeah,
I just, you know, if it's trying to prevent stuff like that, it's not going to work. But, like, if you're looking for, like you said, people that would do that type of stuff, it's a lot of times you can prevent it. So I guess certain laws are good. Not all of them, but certain ones.
Right. For sure. Yeah. 2 hours and 18 minutes.
It's been a pleasure.
I feel like we did pretty well.
I think so.
You know,
for our first
one.
Yeah.
We'll see what the comments are like. I might when I edit this, I might move some segments around depending on kind of like grouping what we talked about kind of together.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes. But overall, thank you guys for watching.
Thanks for having me.
Again, this was Parker. We'll probably have him on again. Curious to see what the comments are going to be like.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to contributing more. I'm looking forward to having some more interesting conversations for you all to listen to.
Oh, yeah.
I think this was pretty fun, and I want to thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And again, comment, guys, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.